Chapter 4654. Father Pan and Pan Ning's hearts skipped a beat when they heard this. They looked at Fengjiu in unison. Fengjiu looked at the silly little boy in front of her and thought of her brother's son. She chuckled and asked, "Do you know what cultivation is? You can be very powerful if you cultivate. If I cultivate, I might be able to beat Mu Chun." He looked at Mu Chun and Mu Yu, who were walking towards his mother. He wanted to beat Mu Chun because he was a boy and older than Mu Chun, but he couldn't beat him. Fengjiu's smile widened at the child's childish words. She reached out and placed her hand on the top of the little boy's head. She raised her eyebrows in surprise and smiled. "I didn't expect you to be a martial artist." Pan Ning couldn't help but ask, "Madam, my son." He has the body of mystic cultivator, so he as can the emperor of the Xinyuan his muscles and bones are not bad. He only saw a red figure. Then forward. Father in the blink of an eye, suddenly became the figure entered the sand wall. He was so excited seeing that it was Fengjiu, the emperor of the Xinyuan. Then can I cultivate with Sister Yu? Instead, he took a step back to looked at her with shining eyes. At this moment, his little face also was full of excitement. However, he did not smiled. Instead, what they cultivate beside the emperor of the Xinyuan kingdom. However, quietly, if you really want to step into the cultivation world, thoughtful look, I can find you a good place to go. In the middle of the training field, she looked at Pan Ning and Lung Hua was destroying the two didn't need her to say sand. However, these human-shaped sand were not. If Madam can send my son to cultivate, they scattered on the ground and became a pile. He quickly stood up and bowed. However, in the next moment, these loose sand gathered together to form a human-shaped figure and said, "Attack them again." Do you know that the cultivation process repeated over and over again? You won't be able to live his strength was after entering the cultivation. He was unable to block if he chooses to stay in the mortal world, protecting the two children. The descendants of the Pan family, seeing that 4 or 5 human-shaped sand, and will even have a high position. However, if he goes to the cultivation immediately shout, he can only start from the lowest point. Get out of the way. Perhaps he will be killed before he can grow up. The two of them struck out with their palms, battle with others, intending to destroy. Do you still want him to set foot in the cultivation world? However, they did not expect that after the human-shaped sand, perhaps they knew this would happen. But when they actually scattered the situation was placed in front of them, and they didn't know how to choose. Then, if they allowed Bo Ching to leave with them to cultivate, and if he could grow up, the Pan family would also become a family the two children immortals in the future, as if it wanted to bury them. Perhaps many years later, the descendants of the Pan family would also be able to step into the cultivation world because of Bo Ching. She instinctively hugged her head. Bo Ching was still so young. How could they make such a decision? Mu Chun hurriedly used his small body to shield his sister, then at his father. Just when they thought that finally they would definitely be buried alive. I want to go. I want to go. I want to become very powerful. Draw a circle on the ground. Can I go with you? Break. Bowen walked up. The moment Fengjiu's voice sounded, Fengjiu looked at him and reached out a hand. Looked in the direction. Then he shook his head. Not far away. You don't have a spiritual Your mother's red dress. And you're not a mystical cultivator. Her beautiful face was filled with a cold. You can only be immortal. They saw her forming a strange seal with her hands children and pinching a talisman. The emperor of the Xinyuan it was normal that they couldn't see spiritual. The talisman was also burned out by the flames. However, when he arrived at the training ground, as soon as she said the training ground, the ground that was calm as the surface of a lake, sand that was originally laid on the ground had formed powerful walls together around it, grow up together in that future. The surrounding wind was going on inside. She looked at, but he could feel a very fine sand that had as if she had thought of human shape. In the end, she asked with some distress. The emperor of Big Brother some fragments of talisman, but he could not hear the sounds coming from inside. If you leave with us, he could only hear the rustling of the wind. The 3 children cheered happily. Hearing this, he gathered his Wu Qing was startled. The moment they saw her to take a look, he looked at his father and muttered, "Just now, before he could see who it was." Then when Fengjiu glanced around and saw that the surrounding sandstorm had calmed down. Of course. When you are strong enough, she then looked at the 3 children and asked. Fu Qing turned to look at his father. "Are you injured?" His face full of seriousness. "We are not injured." And said, "But mother, where did that come from? When I grow up and become very powerful, I will come back to see talismans." Hearing the masked man slowly walked forward and glanced at the people standing in the martial arts field. He could only sigh. His gaze fell on Fengjiu, who was practicing martial arts, saying, "The masked man looked at Fengjiu and said in a deep voice, whether it is a blessing or a curse, you don't have much time left. Own good fortune. When we leave, Let him come with us. Chapter
Don't
46,
worry,
I'll find a good
64.
place for him to go.
She looked at the talisman,
Fengjiu smiled
scattered on the
and
sand,
didn't say anything else,
and waved her hand.
What she said before
A flame
was just to
swept
test them.
across them.
Since she could
and
take this little
burned
boy away,
all the talisman fragments.
she would naturally find a
What's
good
going
place
on?
for him,
Who used
so
the
that he could
talismans
learn
against
things and grow
The
up
emperor of the
safely.
Xian Yuan,
Therefore,
asked.
when this decision
He
was
secretly
made,
heaved
the
a
Pan
sigh of
family
relief
also
when he
discussed
saw
this
that the
matter.
children were fine.
However,
Father,
this
don't
matter
worry.
was not known
It's fine
to
now.
anyone else.
I'll send the children
Only the
back
masters
to
of
rest
the Pan
first.
family knew.
I'll look for you in a while.
According to Fengjiu's
Fengjiu said.
suggestion,
The
not
emperor of
long
the
after they
Xian Yuan
left,
kingdom
let the Pan
nodded
family
when
release
he
the
heard
news that Fu
All right,
Qing
go
had
ahead.
passed
He
away
watched as they
due to
walked
a
towards the
sudden
side
illness.
hall where they were
She
resting.
wanted them to act
He sighed
as if
softly
Fu
and
Qing
shook his head.
didn't exist
He then
here.
walked back with
Only
his
this would be a
hands
good
behind
thing
his
for the
back.
Pan family.
Fengjiu
In the
sent
next
the
few
three
days,
children back to their
Fengjiu
rooms
said goodbye to
and
the
asked
Pan
them
family
to bathe
when
first.
Pan Hong's
She then
legs
turned to
could
Leng
slightly
Hua
stand.
and asked,
When they came,
"Are you all right?"
they caused quite a
"I'm fine,"
commotion.
Leng Hua
but when
said.
they left,
He then
they left
said
quietly.
apologetically,
Fu
"I
Qing's
just didn't
mother,
protect the
Pan
three little
Ning's
masters
wife,
well.
Watch her
You've
son
already done a
leave
good
with
job.
them and
Watch over
cried
them.
until she
Pack up while you're
fainted
at
in
it.
Pan Ning's
We're leaving
arms.
tomorrow."
She didn't know
Fengjiu
if she would have the
instructed.
chance to see
She then
her
asked
child
Leng
again.
Hua
on the
to stay as
spaceship.
well.
Fu
When she
Qing
saw the
sat
masked
beside,
man
wiping
sitting in
his
the courtyard,
tears,
she
and
said,
sniffling.
"I'm going to
Looking at
say
the place
goodbye
getting
to
farther
father.
and farther away.
With a lot on her mind,
he secretly decided
Fengjiu
that
went
in
to
the
the main
future,
hall.
he
Father
would
Xian
definitely
Yuan
come
was
back.
already waiting there.
He would definitely
When he saw
come
her
back
enter,
to see his father.
he gestured
and
to
mother,
her and
as well
said,
as his
"Have a
great
seat."
grandfather and grandfather.
Fengjiu sat down and said,
Brother Fu Qing,
"Father,
here is
I'm
a fruit
preparing to
eat.
leave
Don't
with the
cry.
children tomorrow."
You are
The
he
emperor
gave
of
him
the
a
Xian
spirit
Yuan
fruit.
kingdom
A man
hesitated
don't cry
when he heard
shameful.
that.
Mu
He
Chen's
asked,
expression was
"You're
still
leaving?
cool.
Is it
But he
because of
seemed
what
to know
happened
how
today?
it felt to leave one's
I was going to
parents.
leave anyway.
Hence,
I want to take
although
the
his
children
delicate
out
little
to
face
see
was
the world.
tense,
I
he
didn't
softened
expect
his
something
tone
like
and
this to
said,
happen today.
My mother will
So I'm
find
leaving
you a good
tomorrow.
master.
She was going to
When
leave
that time
tomorrow.
comes, you
Now
just
that
have to
something like
practice
this had
hard.
happened,
She
when you
couldn't
grow
stay
up
here
and become
any longer.
stronger,
She
you
was
can come
afraid
back
that she
whenever
would
you
bring
want.
trouble to
What's
him
there to cry
and
about?
the Empire.
I just want to cry.
Then where are you going?
Don't worry about
Do you
me.
have a target?
I just want to
He
cry,
asked,
not bleed.
thinking that his
He wiped
three
his
grandsons
tears
were about
and
to
turned his
leave.
back
He
to
felt
Mu Chen.
reluctant to
Howard
part with
walked
them.
over and
Fengjiu
didn't say
paused for a
anything.
moment.
He just sat
then
down
said,
and quietly
we still need
looked
to
at
make
the
a
sky
trip
outside.
to the heavens.
As for the other matters,
Chapter
it hasn't been
46
decided yet.
Half
She
a
looked
year's
at the
time
masked
is
man
almost up.
sitting cross-legged.
Perhaps I will
in
let the
corner
children
of the
go
bell.
with their master.
She saw
in
that his
advance.
aura was calm.
Sigh.
And he was
I
sitting
got it.
there
You guys
with
can
his
go
eyes
now.
closed.
Take good care of
There's a small
yourselves
barrier
and
around
take care
him
of yourselves.
that protected his body.
Nothing is more
During this
important
period of
than
time,
safety.
she
No matter
also
where you
realized
go,
that he would
if you
find
have
a
the
place
chance
to
in the
sit
future,
cross-legged
just bring the
sometimes.
children back to see
It didn't
me.
look like he was
If he can't come
cultivating,
back,
but
just
more
remember to
like
send me a
his
message to
soul
let me
was
know
out of
that
his
you are all
body.
safe.
Thinking back
He
to what he had
sighed
said
softly
earlier,
that
and
this
there was
was
an
not his body,
unconcealable
and that he had
loneliness
only
in his
borrowed
words.
this body to come
Fengjiu's
here.
lips moved.
He was even more
but he didn't know
certain
what
of
to
his
say.
guess that his
In
soul
the end,
had
he just
left his
nodded.
body.
Half a year.
She
After
took out some
half a
pills
year,
from her space.
the children would
and
leave
said,
with him.
Father,
Thinking of this,
keep these
she
pills
took
with
a
you just in
deep
case.
breath and slowly exhaled.
If
After
you
a
encounter
pause,
any problems
she
in the
sat
future
up
that you can't
and
solve,
looked at her.
you can send a
three
message
children.
to my brother.
You guys come here.
Ask him to come
She
and help.
waved at the three.
He
of
didn't
them.
refuse.
When the three
and took
children
the
saw
pills.
her,
They
they
went to
replied,
their mother's side.
"Okay, I got it."
You earth threw
Fengjiu
herself
stood
in
up
her arms
and looked at him deeply.
while Mu Chen
Father,
and Hao
parting is the saddest
stood
thing.
at the side.
You don't have to send us
Mother,
off tomorrow
mother,
morning.
What kind of master
Hearing
are you
that,
looking for?
he
Brother
felt
Wu Qing?
bitter.
You
looked
looked
at
at
her
her
and
and
said,
said, arms.
"Okay."
Fengjiu
Take care
stroked
of
her little
yourselves.
head and
Don't worry
smiled
too much
gently.
about this place.
He's a mystic.
We're
so
all fine
naturally.
here. Just
I'll
take
find
care
him
of
a
yourselves.
mystic to be his master.
Don't worry. I'll find a good one.
Chapter
Mother,
46,
Uncle is a mystic.
65.
Mu Chen
The next
said.
morning,
Hearing
Fengjiu
this,
and the rest
Fengjiu
boarded the
raised an
spaceship
eyebrow
left.
and looked at him.
The emperor of
You
the
mean to send him to
Xianyuan
your
kingdom
uncle?
didn't
And
send
let him
off.
accept him.
Instead,
as a
he stood at a
disciple.
high vantage
Actually,
point and
she wanted to
watched
send
as their
Pan
spaceship
Butchen
slowly
to a sect.
ascended into the sky.
As long as she said the word,
disappeared into the
no
clouds.
matter which sect he
Only
was
then
sent
did the
to,
emperor of the
he would be
Xianyuan
well
kingdom
groomed.
retract his
Isn't that good?
gaze and
Mu
walk
Chen
back
asked
slowly
with doubt in his eyes.
at the bow of the spaceship.
Fengjiu shook her head and
Fengjiu
said,
sat up,
it's not that it's not good,
enchantment,
but it's
he
not
looked at the
very
masked man
suitable.
and said,
Because he's your
"Didn't
uncle,
you say that they
I
couldn't
can't
come
make
down?
a decision to
Then how did
accept
they
the
use
disciple for
talismans
him.
to create
So,
assassins?
I'm going to send Butching
The
to
masked
a sect
man leaned on
and
one
find
side,
him a good master.
compared to
As
Fengjiu,
long as his talent
his expression
is
was more
outstanding
relaxed,
and he's
he
willing to
glanced
work
at her
hard,
and then
he will
looked at the
definitely
clouds
be
outside
successful
the
in the
spaceship.
future.
He said,
Yes,
they can't come down.
When Muchin
but
heard
that
her
doesn't
say
mean
this,
they can't do anything.
he thought that his mother had her
Furthermore,
own
they
considerations,
dealt with
and
Xianyuan
that it must be
most.
for Butching's
Naturally,
good.
they
So he
won't
didn't
leave you
say
alive.
much.
It's only
Mother,
a matter
where
of
are we going
time
now?
before they make
Our
a move.
ass.
Let's go to
Furthermore,
Xianyuan Empire
since they've already made
to
a
your
move,
grandfather's place.
it's impossible for them
Fengjiu
to stop.
said,
He
ever
paused,
since we found you,
and then said
we only
casually,
informed your grandfather.
It seems like the rest of
we
the
haven't
journey
brought you
won't
to
be
see
too
him yet.
boring.
This
Hearing
time,
this,
we're going to stay there
Fengjiu's
for a while.
eyes flashed.
If she sent
He
the
said,
children away,
then shouldn't
you would
you
have
tell me
fewer
about what
chances
happened
to
up there?
see them.
What
in
should
the
I tell
future.
you?
tell you
time,
that you're still an
she was
ant
bringing
to
them
the people
back
up
so
there
that they could
who can
accompany
kill
him.
you anytime.
Moreover,
with your current
she had to
strength,
find a chance to
or that the
talk to him
people up
about
there want to
Rose.
kill you,
Putting away her
and
thoughts,
you'll have a slim
she looked
chance
at the
of
3
survival
children and
in the
said,
coming days.
"The medicinal pills
He glanced
that
at
Mother
Fungio
gave you have
and
pretty much
swirled
been
the
used
wine
up,
glass in his
right?
hand.
What did he
smiled
lack?
faintly.
Mother will
and
find
said,
time to refine
I
some
heard
more
that you're
for you.
destined to break
Mother,
through the 8
Mother,
extremes
we don't
of
have any
heavenly
more
Tao
medicinal pills
and
to
become
treat
the
our
master
internal
of the world.
injuries. Perhaps this is a
Even
prophecy
Big Brother couldn't
made
bear
by
to
some of the
use
people
them
down
last
there
time.
who are
Let's use
knowledgeable
it.
about the
You
past and present.
hastily said.
However,
Mother,
in the
we're
eyes
running
of
out
the
of
people
medicine
up there,
for external
those who are
injuries.
destined to
Muchin
have
added.
such a destiny.
Hearing this,
are
Fungio
people who will be
nodded.
plagued with
And
misfortune.
Mother understands.
They will have to go through
Then
all
Mother will
kinds
help
of
you refine
dangers
some
and
more
may even
and
distribute them
to
to
you.
you.
In
Even
the
if you're lucky
future,
enough to
when they
grow
leave
up,
her side,
they will have
it
many
seems that she will
opportunities
have
to
to
kill
refine
you
more
before
pills
you
for
can
them.
stand shoulder to shoulder with them.
Chapter
Fungio pursed his
46,
lips and
57.
frowned. He said
Fungio
calmly,
said,
"I don't want to
then
know that."
took out a book which
I just want to know how I can
all
find
kinds
my
of
elixirs
and
also,
handed it over to you.
Is it only by
She said,
ascending that I
inside
can
this book,
see those
not only the
powerful
effect of
beings
all
that you
kinds of
speak
elixirs,
what
but
kind of
also
place
the effect
is the
of
9
each elixir
heavens
is
immortal
clearly
realm
drawn
you
on
mentioned?
it.
Mother has
Hearing
made some
this,
notes.
he smiled and
and
shook
some
his head.
experience.
I
You
can't
keep it
say
later
that
when you
because
have
it's
time,
very
you can
likely
read
that
it.
you won't be able to
Mother,
ascend in this
you
lifetime.
already has won.
You have to know
the little
that
girl
in order
looked
for
at
you
her
to
mother
ascend
in surprise.
you have to go through.
She also had one of her
81
mother's
heavenly
medicine
thunders
books in her space
to become an
Fungio
immortal.
smiled
Since
and
the
said,
Almighty
"That
above
book
is
is
trying
different
to kill
from
you.
this one. How could they
Keep
let
it.
you go through
These books are already
81
useless to
heavenly
Mother.
thunders?
Don't you want to learn
He
medicine?
smiled and said,
Poison?
"Let's
and
talk
so
about
on?
these things
Then
when
read
you have
more
the chance
books
to ascend
and study
and
more.
become an immortal.
Only by doing experiments yourself.
As
will
soon
you
as he
clearly
finished
know
speaking,
the difference
he
between
downed the wine
effects
in his
of
cup
each
in one
elixir.
gulp, and
The
then
little girl
collapsed
nodded
onto
her
the deck
head
of the boat.
as if she understood.
He held his head with one
Then she took the
hand
book
and
and
closed his
sweetly
eyes
smiled.
as he rested on
Thank
his
you,
side.
Mother.
Obviously,
Fungio patted her
he
head
didn't want to talk
and
to
took out some
Fungio
things from her
anymore.
space for
Fungio
how
glanced at him
Muchin
and pursed his lips.
She told him to keep
He didn't
these
say anything
things.
else.
Perhaps they would be
and just
useful
waved
in
his
the
hand
future.
to remove the
After that,
soundproof barrier.
She got up.
He stood
and
up
entered the
and
cabin.
walked around.
She told
She came to the front of the ship's
stand
bow
outside
and watched the
while
ship
she
glide
entered her
through the
space
clouds.
to refine
She
elixirs
watched as
for
the wind
children.
and clouds
After a few
brushed
days,
past the
the
ship's
airship
hull.
slowly
She
landed
looked at the
outside
endless
the palace
horizon
gate
in front of her
Xinyuan
and
Empire.
could not help
When the
but
airship
turn
landed,
back to look
the
at
people
three
guarding the
children.
palace gate
She made up her
quickly
mind
went in to report.
When Emperor Xinyuan knew that Fungio and the
Chapter
others had come,
46,
his face couldn't help but overflow.
2 days later,
with a happy
the airship
smile.
was slowly
He didn't wait for them
flying
to
in
enter the
sky.
palace.
The people on the
Instead,
ship were
he
either
rushed out
cultivating
and arrived
or
in front of the
resting.
palace gate.
Everything looked so peaceful.
Grandpa, you, however,
excitedly
in this
rushed
seemingly
towards
peaceful
Emperor
sky,
Xinyuan,
the
with her
weather
short legs.
suddenly darkened.
Ha!
At first,
Grandpa's good
the
granddaughter
wind
has
whistled,
come.
causing
Quickly
the
let
ship
Grandpa
to sway a little.
see how much taller
Then
you have
a
grown.
drizzle fell
Emperor
from the sky
Xinyuan
like
picked up the
needles.
child. Why is
and
it
pinched
suddenly
her
raining?
chubby little hands.
Dufan opened
Then
his
he
eyes
patted her little head.
and looked at the sudden
The more he
change
looked at
in
her,
the sky,
the happier
seeing
he
the
was.
drizzle fall
Good,
like
good,
needles.
You didn't
He couldn't
lose
help
weight.
but stand
It's
up
good to
in
be chubby.
surprise.
It's good to be
There was
chubby,
a barrier formed
he said
by
with
spiritual
gratification
power around
seeing
the
that the
ship.
children had
Regardless
returned
of whether
safely,
it was wind or
his
rain,
heart was
it
finally
couldn't blow
at
in.
ease. Therefore, he
Grandpa,
stood at the bow of
Grandpa,
the ship and looked at the
power,
sudden
and
change in
Muchin
the
stepped
sky,
forward and
observing
respectfully
for
bowed down.
any abnormalities.
We are back.
What's
Good,
wrong?
good.
Is something
It's good
wrong?
that you're back.
Lung
He
Hua
nodded
walked
as he
over and
spoke.
asked. Tears
He also
welled up
looked
in
at
his
the sky
eyes.
that was
He looked at Fungio,
seeing that the
and
sky
said,
was dark.
"It's
He
good that
asked,
you found the children.
Should we find a place
I'm
to stop
relieved that they're
first?
back.
Didn't Master
Thank you for your
enter the
hard work
space
this
to
time."
refine pills?
As he spoke,
He probably won't be able
glanced
to
at
come
the
out
people
now.
beside Fungio
Dufan said,
and was a little surprised.
still looking at the sky.
Other than a few
He felt that the
familiar
atmosphere
people,
in the
there was
sky
also a
was
masked
somewhat
man,
oppressive.
a guard in black.
Master
and a little
entered the
boy.
space.
Du
Dufan
can't come out.
Lung Hua
Then
will
and
control
Lung
the
Shuang
airship
were all
to
there.
land.
But
It's gonna stop
Immerse
below.
was nowhere
You
to be
see,
seen. The wind is
where's
getting
Mose?
stronger and stronger.
Why didn't he come back
and
with
it's
you?
raining.
He
The
asked,
airship will be
feeling a
unstable
little
during
strange.
flight.
Father,
Lung Hua said,
Fungio was the
thinking
first
that
to
it was
call out.
necessary to find a
He
place
walked
to
forward
stop
and said,
below.
"Let's talk
Hearing
inside."
this, Dufan
Hearing
nodded.
this,
The
That's
emperor
good.
of Xinyuan
Let me see what's
Kingdom
below.
was stunned
As he
for a
spoke,
moment. He came
Then
to the
he
side
side of the ship
laughing.
and looked down.
That's right,
at the
that's
clouds.
right.
He
Look at
also
me.
released his
You guys
divine
came all the way
sense
here,
and
and you're
down.
asking me questions
Do
here.
fan.
Come,
Quick. Let's move
Quick.
the airship.
Follow
and
me
stop
in.
below.
Are you guys hungry?
Lung Hua's
I'll get the
voice
Imperial kitchen
changed
to prepare
slightly,
some food for
with a
you.
trace of
Then,
surprise.
have a good rest.
Du Fan,
The
who
group
was looking
entered the
down with his
palace.
divine sense.
Emperor Xuanyuan's
quickly
face was
turned
full
back.
of smiles when they
What's
arrived.
wrong?
He got the
Fan turned
Imperial
back
kitchen
and
to
saw that
prepare
his
some
expression
food,
had
and the
changed
servants had
slightly.
tidied up the place.
Following
for them
his
to stay.
gaze, he saw that about 10 meters in front of
Chapter
their airship,
46.
there was a whirlpool in
Have
the
a
sky.
seat.
The
The
Emperor
whirlpool was
Xuanyuan
extremely
gestured.
large.
He looked at her,
and it was pitch black
asked,
inside.
Did
It
something
made
happen
whistling
to Mose?
sounds in the wind
Actually,
and rain.
when he saw that his
it was
son
as if there
did
was a
not
suction
return
today,
force,
and
sucking their
Fengjiu
airship
did not
into
answer
the
his
whirlpool.
question.
He had
The
a
airship,
vague guess
which
in
was
his
flying
heart.
slowly,
However,
moved
he did not
forward
know
much
what could have
faster.
happened with his son's abilities.
Not good.
Hurry,
Feng Jiu
and
nodded
call master.
and sat down
Du
on the
Fan
chair.
exclaimed,
Father,
and asked
before we
Lung
found
Hua
the
to call their
children,
master.
something
He
happened
immediately
to Mose.
used his
It
spiritual
happened
power
because
to control
of his
the
advancement.
airship, to turn
Breakthrough?
around and descend.
The Emperor of the Xianyuan
However,
kingdom's
they had
heart
somewhat
sank.
underestimated
Something
the
like a
power of the
breakthrough
whirlpool
was no
even
small
though the
matter.
spaceship had turned
It's like
around
this.
under Du Fan's
Feng Jiu
control
told him
and was
everything that
descending.
happened that day.
The whirlpool
In the end,
suction
he
was
said,
still
"My brother went
extremely
back to the
terrifying.
land that Mose
It was as if there was a
controlled
pair
to
of hands
investigate.
on the
Inside
day
the
that
whirlpool
something
that was
happened to
pulling them in.
Mose.
The
The
land
spaceship
shook
was
greatly.
uncontrollably pulled
However,
toward the
his
whirlpool.
spiritual energy,
Moreover,
did
because
not
it was being
completely
forcefully
disappear.
sucked in,
Hence,
the
we
airship
guess that he is
tilted
not
slightly.
dead. We just don't know where he is now. This
Hearing
movement
this,
was felt by the
Emperor
three
of
children who were
Xianyuan sighed
cultivating
softly
in the side room
and said,
they quickly
heard the
ran
sound
out
of
to
thunder
see what
from
was
here.
going on. However,
Hurry
it was
and go
too
in.
far away.
Don't come out.
We did not receive
Lung
any
Hua
news
pushed them
and
in,
did not know
afraid that they would encounter
an accident.
He
when
looked
they
at
came
Feng
out.
Jiu,
Therefore,
said with a
the
heavy
three
heart,
children were pushed
who
back
can
in
say
the
for
cabin
sure
by
that he is
Lung
still
Hua
alive
as
under
soon as they
such
took a
heavenly
step out?
lightning?
Moreover,
Even if his
because
spiritual
the
energy
tilting of the
did
airship,
not completely
they could not
disappear,
stand steadily.
it could be a
and
matter
fell
of
around.
time.
The
Master,
heavenly lightning
Master
was so powerful that even he could not withstand it. No,
Chapter
I don't believe that he is
46,
dead.
67.
I don't believe that he no
Feng Jiu
longer
was
exists
refining
in this
pills
world.
in her space.
I would rather believe
Just
that
as
he
she was
is
about to open the
recuperating
furnace.
somewhere. She
Feng
heard
Jiu
Lung
said
Hua's
firmly,
anxious calls.
"He's my son.
And knocks on
Why
the
would I
door.
not want him to
She
be
hurriedly
alive?
came out. I'm just worried
However,
that if you have too
the
much
moment
hope,
she opened the door,
you'll suffer a
she saw
bigger blow in the
darkness
future
and a little dizzy.
It's good to have hope in
She
your
couldn't
heart,
even stand
but you have to
steadily
be mentally
and
prepared.
swayed with a
You can't
violent
wait
shaking of
until
the
the
ship.
time comes
At
when
that
the hope in your
moment,
heart is
she felt a
shattered
powerful
and your
force
beliefs
pulling
can't
the
hold on.
spaceship
Feng
forcefully,
Jiu remained silent,
and the spaceship
did
lost
not
its
say a
balance
word.
and was
She
sucked
knew
in.
that he said this
After
for
a moment of
good
dizziness,
and to prepare her
she
mentally.
felt the barrier
However,
of the spaceship
she did
break
not
with
want
a
to
bang,
believe and would
and the
not
spaceship
believe that
fell
Mose
down
did
from
not
high
exist
place.
in this world.
Oh no,
he must still
Du
be
Fan,
alive. Lung
the
Hua
Emperor of Xianyuan
quickly
did not
stabilized
continue
the
on
ship
this
with me.
topic.
Instead,
Hua,
he asked, "Take care of
the children
three
don't know
children.
yet, right?
Don't let them out.
Are you not going to tell them?"
Feng Jiu
I haven't
immediately
thought of
shouted,
how to tell them.
seeing that the
Feng Jiu
situation
said
was not
worriedly.
good.
She
Although they are
immediately
young,
flew
they're
out of the
already
spaceship.
sensible. And
If
came
I
to
tell
the
them,
bottom of the spaceship,
I am worried that
to
their
quickly
small
stabilize
hearts
it.
will not be able
The
to
moment
take
she
it.
shouted,
Hearing
Du
this,
Fan, he
and
sighed
Lung
softly
Shuang
and
quickly
said,
took action.
"The children
They
are
each held
stronger
onto
than
the
you
three
think.
corners
Don't
of the
worry.
spaceship.
Tell them. However,
They're already
even though they had
sensible, and they should
used
know.
their spiritual energy
Father,
to protect the
actually,
spaceship,
I have something
they
else
could
to tell
not
you this time.
withstand the powerful
Feng Jiu
force
looked
of
at
the
him.
spaceship.
And
As a
ma'am,
result,
tell me,
when the
I am
spaceship
listening.
was pressed
What is
down,
it?
they could
He
only
asked.
slow down
Feng
the
Jiu
force
stretched
of
out
the
his
falling
hand
spaceship
and set up a
and minimize the
soundproof barrier.
damage to the minimum. Then,
Bang, bang,
he said,
bang.
the
Mose
ship
is in
landed on the
trouble
ground
because someone
but did
from the
not
immortal
stop
realm is
immediately.
pressuring us
Instead,
and wants to
it
kill
slid on the
us.
ground for about
So,
10 meters.
I am preparing
and
to
knocked
send
down
three
many
children
trees
away.
before
The
coming to a
masked man
stop
who
due to
came
the
with us
friction
today
between the sand
is
and
a
stones.
powerful person from
Feng
the
Jiu,
immortal realm.
Du Fan,
He is Dashi
and Lung
carefully
Hua
explained
came out
the
from the
seriousness
ship.
of the matter to him.
Seeing that the
and
ship had
decision she
stabilized,
made.
they
She
finally
hoped that he would
heaved
understand.
a sigh of relief. Thinking of the three
Chapter
children on the ship,
46,
Feng
59.
Jiu
I'm not sure
immediately
about the
jumped
situation
onto
up
the
there,
ship.
but for
How are
now,
the
that's
children?
right.
Feng
She
Jiu
nodded.
quickly stepped
Since you're not
forward
sure
and
about the
asked,
situation up
only
there,
then did
how can you
Lung
be sure
Hua
that the
open
children
door
will
of the
grow
room
up
where the
safely
children
after
were?
you send them up
He
there?
saw how,
And how can
her
you be
hugging
sure
Mu-chun
that the
and
person
Mu-yu,
who doesn't
the three
even
of
want to
them
tell us
hugged
his
each other
name
tightly
will really
as
protect
they
them?
sat on the ground.
The Emperor
Their
of
faces were
Xianyuan
pale
kingdom
and
asked.
panicked,
After
unable to
seeing
loosen
them,
his frown.
they seemed to heave a
After
sigh of
hearing
relief
Feng Jiu's
and
words,
quickly
he
stood up.
became even
Mother,
more worried.
The three
I've been
children
observing
threw
them
them all
all
this
this
time,
time,
and
I
clearly
feel that this
frightened.
person is
I'm fine, I'm
trustworthy.
fine.
Besides
hurt?
that, there's another
Feng
matter
Jiu
regarding
asked.
you are looking at the three
Inside the
children one by
palace,
one.
outsiders
If they
were
were
unable
unable
to
to
know
know
what
what
the
the two of them were
shaking of the
talking
ship.
about
No,
inside the barrier.
we fell on the deck
At this
and
time
didn't stand up
because it was
so we weren't
evening,
injured.
The children
Howard
were playing
said.
around in the palace.
Yes, no injuries.
Especially Bo-chin,
Mu-chun and
who had
Mu-yu
never
nodded
seen
and
such a
said,
beautiful
"That's
palace.
good."
Feng
Jiu
Jiu
excited.
breathed a sigh
This
of
place is
relief
so
and
beautiful.
touched their little faces.
Mu-chun,
At this
your
time,
grandfather is
as if
actually
he
the
thought of
emperor,
something
nothing,
That's
he
really
led them out of the
amazing.
cabin and
Bo
came to the
Chin
outside.
exclaimed.
Looking at
expect
this
them to have
unfamiliar
such an
place,
identity.
he could not
Muchin
help
glanced
but
at
frown
him and said,
Previously, he had
"Of
only
course
been
my
focused
grandfather
on
is
stabilizing
amazing,
the spacecraft,
but my
that was
parents
being
are even
flown
more
downwards.
amazing.
So
They
he
are
didn't
the
have time to look
masters
around
of heaven
carefully.
and earth. Much more powerful
Now
than
that he
the
looked
emperor.
around,
In the future,
he realized that
I will
this
also
place
be
was
as
full of
powerful as my
strangeness
parents,
and
so you
oppression.
can't beat me.
Moreover,
I
it
don't
was
believe
noon when
it.
they were there.
I will also
but
be
here,
very
it was pitch
powerful in the
black.
future.
The surroundings
I will
were
definitely
quiet,
beat you.
and no other
Bo Chin
sounds
said,
could be heard.
unconvinced.
There was no spiritual
Brother Bo
aura
Chin,
in the air.
I'll take you
either.
to see the
It
spirit
was as if they were in a
beasts
place
the
that was
palace.
isolated from
He
spiritual
stepped forward
aura.
and pulled his hand,
Master,
saying,
my grandfather
suddenly
also has a
appeared in the
red
sky
crown crane
earlier.
that can fly.
We quickly
I'll take
turned
you
the
to
ship
see it.
around.
But we were sucked in too late.
Let's go
Dufan
see it.
said.
When
At
Bo
this
Chin
time, he
heard
also
this,
looked around
his
and
eyes
felt that
lit
this
up,
place seemed
and
a
his little face
strange.
was full of excitement. In an instant,
He forgot about what had just happened.
Chapter
It
46,
could be said that other than
68.
secretly
He
crying
went into the cabin
when he
this
first
morning
left home
and told
for
us
a day
not
or
to
two,
disturb him.
after a long time,
He hasn't come out
he no
since.
longer cried.
Long
when he
Shuang
thought of his
said as he
parents and
looked at the
family.
tightly shut
More
cabin
often than
door.
not,
Hearing
he was
this,
attracted by
Feng
new
Zhou
and
frowned
interesting
slightly,
things.
but he
This
didn't
was because
check.
during this time,
Instead,
he had seen
he walked
many
to the bow of
new
the
and
ship
strange
and looked
things
around.
and things.
He saw that they seemed to be in a cave in the
he might see
mountains.
more and know
Other
more.
than some trees
When
and
Lung
weeds,
Hua and
they were
Long
surrounded
Shuang
by
saw
high
them
peaks that
walking
reached
towards
into
the
the
Spirit
clouds.
Beast Garden.
Du Fan
They followed
and Lung
behind
Hua.
them
You
unhurriedly.
two go.
Although
Although
it
it
was said that it was very
See if there are any
safe
people
and
nearby,
there wouldn't be any
and
more
where we are
people
now,
like the Demon
Feng
Master
Zhou
appearing,
instructed the two
they
of
would
them.
still follow
Yes,
behind to protect
the two
them,
of them responded.
just in case.
They gathered their
After
chi
staying in the
and
palace
flew
for 2
off on
days,
their swords.
Feng Zhou
looked at the
Du
sky
Fan to send
and
Bo Qing to
immediately
the
gathered
gathered
spiritual
Yi
energy
Jing
in her hands
and her
to
brother
set up
had
a
cultivated
boundary
him before
to protect the ship.
because there,
However,
other than spirit
just as she was setting up the
cultivators,
boundary,
there were also
her heart
mystic
skipped a beat.
cultivators.
She looked at
After
her
thinking
hands
about it,
and her eyes
she felt that
flashed.
sending Bo Qing
Don't run around.
there was the most
Don't get
suitable.
off the ship.
On this day,
Feng Zhou looked at the three
watched
children
the children say
and
their
instructed them.
goodbyes.
Okay,
and
we
felt
know.
a little
The three
uncomfortable.
children responded seriously.
Therefore,
seeing her
after
walk
this
to the
farewell,
closed cabin door,
it would be
and
difficult
knock,
for them to
they
see
followed
each other
behind
again
her
in
the
watched.
future.
Knock,
When
knock.
you go there,
Feng Zhou
you have
knocked
to cultivate
twice.
well. There was
Don't
no
just
sound
fight
from
with
inside.
others.
She
Remember
called
to
out,
run.
If
when
you don't
can't
open the
beat
door,
others.
I'm going in. Muchen looked
She
at the
waited
red
for a
eyed
while,
Bo-Ching,
but there was
and
no
said
movement
stiffly,
inside.
Sob,
Thus,
sob, I know.
She used her
I'll miss
divine
you guys.
thought and
Why
pressed her
become
hand
more
on the door.
powerful? The next
I'll come
moment,
and fight with you.
she pushed it open.
At that time,
the cabin wasn't
I'll definitely
small.
be able to defeat
Other than a
you.
bed for resting,
He cried
there
as
was
he wiped
space
his
for other
tears.
things. The corner
She
of
walked in
Muchen's
and
mouth
scanned
twitched.
twitched.
Her gaze
Originally,
fell on the figure
he was still a little
sitting
reluctant,
cross-legged
but
on the bed.
suddenly
There was an
became
aura around
subtle.
the figure. He could
It
only
was
say with a
obvious that he
straight
had set up
face,
a boundary
I will wait
to protect his body.
At this moment, there was only
Chapter
an extremely
4660,
weak aura
holding the
around his
dagger.
body.
Fu
He
Qing
sat there
wiped
with his
tears
eyes
and
closed.
said,
It was
"Yes,
as if he
yes,
had
I know.
entered a state
I will take
of
good care of
meditation
myself
and was
You
not
guys should
aware
take good care of
anything
yourselves,
in
too.
the outside
Don't get
world.
lost again."
Feng Zhou glanced
All right,
at him. It's getting
and
late.
remembered some
Let's
things
go.
he mentioned.
Du Fan
She
stepped
stopped
forward
and
and said to the
patted
three children
Fu
behind
Qing's
her,
shoulder.
"You guys
He
go
looked
out
at Feng
first."
Zhou and said,
"Okay."
Although
Master,
the three children
I'll
were
send him to the
curious,
sect first.
they listened to her
I'll come back
and
when
left.
I'm done with the matter.
After the three children
Okay,
went
go.
out,
Feng Zhou
gestured.
stepped forward.
He watched him
and
take out the
observed him
flying
for a while.
device and
After
leave with
confirming that his
17
divine
and
soul
Fu Qing
was not
Only
in his
then did he
body
look
this
at the
time.
three children.
She frowned. Let's go
Without
back to the
breaking
palace.
the boundary that
During this
protected his
period of
body,
time,
she turned
accompany
and
your
walked
grandfather
out.
well.
She remembered him
Feng
saying
Zhou stroked
that because
the
children's
body
heads
wasn't
and
his
said,
original body.
The three
He
followed
couldn't
her
stay
inside.
here for a long
You
time.
were asked.
Moreover,
Mother,
every
will you
once
able
in
to
a
see
while,
Fu
his
Qing
soul
again in
would
the
have to
future?
return to his
Feng
original
Zhou held
body.
her hand
She just
and
didn't
walked
expect
forward.
that she would
She looked
encounter this
ahead
today
and said,
thinking
"There's
of the
no
situation
such thing
she
as an
sensed
eternal
just
banquet
now,
in the world."
her heart sank.
We meet when we
It
are
seemed that she
fated,
had to leave
and
this
when we are
place
not,
as soon as
we
possible.
part ways.
On the other
Let
side,
nature take
Du
its
Fan
course.
and Lung
There's no
Hua,
need to be
who
too
had gone to
deliberate.
investigate the
The three
surroundings,
children
were
listened
flying
and
through the
fell
night
silent.
on their swords.
After a while, they nodded.
Yes,
Suddenly,
we understand.
the two of them felt
Mother,
that their flying
where's
speed
father?
was gradually
Muchen
slowing
asked
down,
and looked up at
and their
her.
bodies seemed
You
to be
haven't
getting
told
heavier.
us where father
Something
went.
doesn't seem right.
Mother, did
Before
something happen
Lung
to father?
Hua
Feng
could
Zhou
finish
stopped in her
speaking,
tracks.
his vision
and her
turned
expression
black,
flickered.
and he fainted.
She lowered her head
Lung Hua
and looked at her son
Du Fan
beside
shouted.
her. She
The
revealed a
spiritual
gentle
aura
smile
on his body
and
surged.
reached out to stroke
However,
his hair.
at that
Our,
moment,
in you,
a dark
were
green
also
flame
looking
appeared
at her,
in front of him
as if waiting
and
for
was
her answer.
extinguished.
Thus,
Almost at that moment,
she looked at the
his
palace
spiritual
fence not
aura
far away and
seemed to be
said,
suppressed.
"Let's go there."
His vision darkened,
I'll tell you guys.
and he lost consciousness
Thus,
and
the three
fell.
children followed her to the fence. When they saw her sitting on the fence,
Chapter
the three
46,
children imitated
69.
her.
On
and
the airship,
sat beside
Feng
her.
Zhou frowned.
The three children
looked around
six
and didn't
eyes
see
fell
Du
on her
Fan
at the same
and
time,
Lung Hua,
waiting
she had
for
a
her to
bad
tell them.
premonition.
A while
She
ago,
summoned her contracted
the weakening
beast
of the
from her
blood
space.
curse on your bodies
Fire
was
Phoenix
indeed
cloud
related to your
swallowed.
father.
Three
Something
rays of
happened to
light
him
came
when he
out.
was advancing,
After the
and
light
we don't know where he is
disappeared.
now.
The fire
However,
Phoenix,
you don't
and
have to
two
worry.
cloud swallow
He will
beasts
definitely be
appeared
fine.
in front of her.
Perhaps he
What
is just
happened?
recuperating
Fire Phoenix
somewhere
looked looked around and will come back
when she sensed the aura here.
Recovers.
Her voice changed.
Fengjiu only gave
them
them
a
a
brief
brief
summary
summary
of
the situation.
Demonic aura?
Only she knew how
Fengjiu
dangerous
raised
it was,
her eyebrows.
but she didn't want the
I
children
only
to
felt
think
that the
too
aura
much
here
or worry
was a
too
little
much.
strange.
So she only gave them a
Moreover,
brief summary.
I gradually couldn't
Even
use
Mother
my
doesn't
spiritual
know where
power.
Father is.
I didn't expect it to be
wrinkled her
demonic
small
aura.
face.
Beasts
Then
were very
blinking her pair of
sensitive
worried
to
eyes,
demonic aura.
She looked at her mother.
Since the fire phoenix said
Fengjiu
so,
smiled,
then it must
and
be
rubbed
true.
her little head.
Du Fan
Your
and
father is
Lung Hua
very
went out to
powerful.
scout. You
and
don't have
still
to worry
a
about
return.
it. I'm
However,
worried that something
Mother
happened
still
to him.
has something to tell
You
you
guys
three.
stay here and guard.
Mother, what's
I'll go
the
take
matter?
a look.
Our
Fengjiu
app.
said.
After a
Just
period
as she was
of
getting
time,
off the airship,
Mother will send you
she
to
heard
other
a voice
places
to learn and
Wait a
cultivate.
minute. Hearing this voice during this period of time, was slightly surprised. You must remember what Mother She turned around and saw that the masked
Perhaps
man
in the
had
future,
already come out. You will be able to
seeing
use
this.
Mother
She
wants
said,
to send us away.
Didn't you have an out-of-body experience
We don't want to
before?
learn and
I thought that you
cultivate
wouldn't
with
be able
Mother.
to come back here.
You hurriedly
She didn't
said
expect
her pair
that he
of
would be able
small
to wake
hands tightly
I also
clutching
didn't
her mother's
expect
sleeve that something would
Mother,
happen in
I
such
also
a
don't
short
want to leave
time.
Mother.
You were
I
actually
want to stay
brought
by
to
Mother's
this demon
side.
realm by them.
Muchin also
The
said,
masked man sighed and slowly walked out. He looked at Yu
Chapter
and paused
46,
for a moment.
61.
Then he looked at Feng
Hearing
Jiu.
the children's words,
I have to take them away.
Feng Jiu
This
felt
place
a
is
bit
not sour
suitable
in
for
her
them.
heart. Feng
She
Jiu
looked
was
at them
silent
and
for a
revealed
moment.
a
She
faint
looked at
smile.
the three children.
You have to listen to
After
Mother
a while,
obediently.
she asked,
No matter what
you
Mother
said that this
does,
is the demon
it's
realm.
for your own good.
I found that the
When the
aura
three
of
children heard
spiritual
this,
power here
they looked at
is
each other
restricted and fell
How are you going
silent.
to take them away?
All right, at present,
I'll send you to
the blood
grandfather's
curse
place.
on you,
You have to
and
accompany
Shun,
grandfather.
has not been completely
Mother will go
removed.
back and refine
The
pills
longer
for
you stay in the demon realm,
She led the children
the
to
more
the main
difficult
hall.
it will be
After
for you
sending
to
them to the
use
main
your
hall,
spiritual energy.
she had Lung
Now
Hua
that we're
look after
here,
them.
I can
Only
still
then
take
did
them
she enter
away,
her room,
but it's
and
hard to
flash
say if we
into
stay any
space.
longer.
After
Also,
about a month,
I received
Du Fan
news
returned.
that they want to trap you
After
here
arriving
forever.
at the palace.
In this
He
place,
first went to find
even
Feng
with your
Jiu to
strength,
report the
I'm
matter
afraid it will
of
be
sending
difficult to
Bo
open a
Ching
corner
to
of the
sect,
sky,
as
and
well as the
return to your
matter of
original
sending
place.
17 to
I'm
the
not
Phoenix
leaving.
Guards for training.
I don't want to leave
As
Mother.
for Luo Yu,
Wherever Mother
Qin
is,
Xian,
you will be
and the
there
others, because they were
You
told to take
shouted
care of their
loudly
various strongholds
and hugged to her mother's
They didn't
side,
come with them,
tightly
Master,
hugging her leg.
Luo
I'm not
Yu
leaving either.
and the others have
Mother
taken
is in
care of
danger
everything
now.
else.
I won't
Right now,
leave.
there
I want
aren't
to be with
any
my
major
mother.
events happening
Power said
in the various
and stood
strongholds.
beside Feng Jiu.
During
I
this
won't
period
leave
of time,
even if you beat me to
Master
death.
can rest assured
Muchin also
that
came to
everything
Feng
will be
Jiu's
normal.
side
and held
Du
her
Fan
hand
helped
tightly.
Feng Jiu pour
He
a
looked
cup
at the
of tea
masked
and
man
said,
warily.
Feng Jiu had
We're
just
not leaving.
finished refining
I will
a cauldron
never
of
go with
pills.
you. Even
Her
if this
clothes
is the
were
demon
stained with the
realm,
smell of medicine.
we still won't be
and
with
she looked
Mother.
a bit tired. We don't want
She
Mother
took a
to
sip
be in
of tea
danger.
and said,
Hearing this,
with them
Feng
looking
Jiu
after
couldn't
me,
help but
of course
sigh
I can rest
softly.
assured. We've been living here for almost
He touched
a month.
Yu's head
For the
and
remaining
said,
time,
"It's
I
dangerous
plan to
here.
take the three children
Sooner
out
or
for
later,
a walk and
you will
see the
worship
outside
him
world.
as your master.
You should go back
Leaving
and
with
rest
your
for
master
today
is
Pack
also a
up
good
and
thing.
prepare to leave tomorrow.
No.
Yes.
I don't want to.
Du Fan replied,
You were said with red
and
eyes.
bowed before
She looked
leaving.
up at her mother
Master,
pitifully.
The water for a bath
Mother,
has been
You
prepared.
doesn't want to
Do you
leave
want to take a
Mother.
bath first?
You doesn't want to.
Lung Hua
Don't.
walked up and asked. Feng Jiu replied. He stood up and rubbed
Chapter
his shoulders,
46-70.
asking,
Hearing
Where did the
this,
children go
the
to
masked
play?
man who was
They're
about
training
to
with
step
Lung
forward
Hua
stopped.
in the martial
His
arts
deep
field.
gaze
Lung Hua
looked at the
said,
little girl who was
Hearing
like a little
this,
beast.
Feng Jiu
Seeing
nodded
that her eyes
and went
were
in to take a
slightly
bath,
red and
preparing
filled
to
with
wash
anger
away
and
his
vigilance.
fatigue and
He
relax.
sighed in his heart,
and
a
at the
trace
training
of
field,
helplessness flashed
Mu
through his
Chun and
eyes.
Mu Yu were
Only
having
then
a
did he
contest.
look at Feng Jiu.
They were trying to
and
fight
said,
barehanded.
Aren't you going
And
to
there
look
were
for
several
them?
times
Go.
when Mu
We'll
Chun
wait for you
easily
here.
threw Yu
Seeing
to the
this,
ground. Feng Jiu looked
However,
at him and
the ground in
patted
the martial
three
arts
children
field was
beside
not
her
hard.
and said,
Instead, it was
you
made
guys
of
wait
fine
here
sand.
obediently.
There was no pain.
Mother will go
when
look
one
for
fell
Du
on it.
Fan and
However,
Lung Hua. The little girl
Mother,
had been
you must
thrown
come back
on the
safely.
sand time and time
We'll
again.
wait for you here.
Her temper was starting to
Yu's
get a little
young
worse.
and tender voice
I don't believe
carried
that
a unique
big
brother won't
softness
fall.
of a child.
You are said.
With a worried
Looking at her
look,
brother who was
she pulled
firmly
her mother's
standing
hand
in
and
said,
said,
My
she
brothers
rolled her
and I
eyes
will wait
and
here for Mother to
revealed
come
a
back.
crafty smile.
If Mother doesn't come
the next
back,
moment,
we won't
she
go
directly
anywhere.
ran forward.
Feng Jiu's
She
heart
didn't wave
warmed,
her small
and she rubbed her
fist
little
to
head
attack.
and said,
rather used
Okay,
her small
be good.
body
Mother
to
will be back
forcefully
very
collide
soon.
with him.
She
Mu
looked at the
Chun saw
masked
her
man
lowering
and
her
said,
head like a calf.
I'll have to trouble
couldn't
you.
help
After
but be
saying
startled.
this,
She took a deep
he
breath
quickly
and
reached out
stepped
to
out of
block
the
her
airship
small head
and went in the
who knew
direction
that the little
Du
girl
Fan
would
and
use
the others
all
had
her
gone.
strength.
Shuttling
And this
back and
collision
forth in the
really
night.
knocked him to
She
the
felt
ground.
that the demonic aura
Big
in
Brother
the air
also
was getting
fell.
heavier.
You
and
laughed
heavier.
happily.
In the night, she didn't get up.
Other than the
and
sound
just lay
of
on
the
Mu
wind,
Chin's body.
there seemed to be no
shouting
other sound.
and dancing.
However, at
Not
this
far
time,
away, she suddenly stopped and looked
who was
back.
training with Lung
At this
Hua,
time,
heard the
she
laughter
could no
and
longer
looked
see
back.
the location
He
of
saw
the
his
spaceship
brother
and
as if it was
sister
covered
playing
by
in
a
thin
sand.
fog.
Seeing
She
this,
thought of the
his
three
cold
children
face
on
couldn't
the
help but
spaceship
reveal a smile,
and then remembered that
however,
the
it was also at
Phoenix
this time
and
that
the
his
masked
face
man were
suddenly
guarding the
changed.
spaceship.
It was because
Thus,
the fine
she did
sand
not
on the
stop
sand
and went
suddenly
forward.
rolled up
Lung
and formed a
Hua,
human
Feng
sandman
Jiu called
that
out
rushed
in
towards
surprise.
Mu Chun.
And
She saw that the
Mu Yu.
person sitting in the grass in front of her was Lung Hua,
Chapter
who had gone out with Du Fan
62,
just a moment
almost
ago.
at the same time.
However, at this
Lung
time,
Hua's
he was
expression
sitting in a
changed,
daze,
and
he
his whole
immediately
face was
rushed toward
lifeless
Mu
and
Chun and
lifeless.
Mu Yu.
Seeing
However,
this,
the
she
sandman
quickly went
formed by
forward.
the fine sand
What's the matter?
pounced on the
You
two
guys
children
met
at an
She pushed his
extremely
shoulder with her
fast
hand.
speed. But
Dodge.
just as she
Lung
touched him,
Hua shouted.
her voice
At the
stopped,
same time,
and her
he
whole
condensed
body
a wind
quickly
blade in his
retreated.
hand.
Whoosh!
Xiao,
Bam!
two vines sprang
With a
out
swoosh,
as if they
a
were alive.
wind blade
If
cut
she hadn't
through the
retreated
air,
at that moment,
bringing with it a
she would have been
swift
tied up
and fierce
looking
airflow.
again.
Lung
Immediately
Hua, who was
after,
sitting in a
the
daze
wind
on the
palm
grass,
accurately
suddenly
hit the
changed
human
into
figure
the appearance
condensed
of a
from fine
big tree.
sand.
The trunk of the big tree was about fine, 2 people sand instantly
There weren't many
scattered
branches
all over
and
the
leaves,
ground, but they
and
were
a yellow
swaying.
talisman
Lung
also
Hua's face
floated to the
appeared to be
ground.
struggling
Seeing this,
inside the tree.
Lung Hua
What a
heaved
good
a sigh
demonic
of
tree.
relief.
Looking
Even
at this
Howard,
scene,
who was
Feng
running
Jiu's
over,
eyes
also let out a
turned
sigh
cold.
of relief.
She stretched out
The
her
2 little
hand,
guys on
and
the
the
ground
Qingfeng
also
sword,
recovered
which
from
was
their shock
glowing
at
with a
this time.
green light.
They quickly
appeared
stood
in
up
her
and
hand.
patted the
As the
fine
spirit
sand
force
off
in
their
her palm
bodies.
surged,
But at this moment,
flames
the talisman on the
surged.
ground
The red
suddenly
figure rose up,
exploded with a
raised the
bang,
sword in her hand
scattering
high up,
into pieces,
and slashed down
the moment it
fiercely
exploded,
at the demon tree
the
below.
fine sand on the training field rolled up.
Suddenly,
And a sand
the
wall
humanoid
rose
face
up
on the
along
tree
with the aura
let
that
out
came out of
a shrill
nowhere,
shriek,
enclosing
As soon
them
as the
inside.
shriek rang out,
Oh no!
Feng
Feng
Jiu's
Jiu's
hand
hand
involuntarily
involuntarily
trembled when he saw
and the
the
sword in her
sudden
hand
change.
slashed
He
to the
immediately
side.
took out an item from his space and crushed it. At the same time, he rushed toward the 2
Chapter
little ones,
46,
shouting,
71.
"Power, come here!"
The sound was like
How?
oil coming
Or
into
had the
contact
strength
with
of a
fire,
golden core
producing
cultivator,
a sizzling
and his ability
sound.
to adapt
As the
was
flames
not bad.
burned in the air.
Therefore,
the demonic
Lung Hua
aura
only thought
gradually
of Muchun
decreased.
and Muyu.
Some of the
After
demonic
all,
aura,
the 2 of them
and
had limited
some of the
combat
surrounding
power.
trees,
If they
quickly
really
retreated,
encountered danger,
as if they were
they would
afraid
not
of
be
being
able to
touched
protect
by
themselves.
Even
Whoosh,
the demonic tree
whoosh, whoosh.
wanted to take the
The
opportunity
wind
to
and
escape.
sand swirled.
Feng
and the
Jiu
fine
retracted
sand
her
on the
aura
ground was
and
rolled
hid
up
in the
to form a
darkness to
sand
chase
wall to
after the
encircle
demonic
them in the
tree.
middle.
She
In the
then
middle,
extinguished
some
the flames
fine
on their
sand
side
quickly
and let it
condensed
continue
into
to burn.
human figures.
She took a
and
deep
attacked
breath and directly
Muchun
pierced the
and
body
Muyu.
of the demonic
The 2 little
tree
guys
with
had
the
already
Qingfeng
recovered
sword
from
stand
their
in her
shock.
hand. Seeing
When
the
the sharp
human-shaped
sword
pillars
killers
formed
with
by
a
the fine
whoosh,
sand, green liquid
Muchun
flowed
immediately
out.
pulled
At the
his
same
sister
time,
and
the
ran
demonic
toward
tree
Lung Hua.
let out a
"Sister, hurry!"
blood-curdling scream.
The guards quickly
the
went
body
to
of the
report
tree
the shocking
slowly
change.
shrunk
until
Feng
it finally
Jiu,
became
who was
a
bathing,
human-sized
was lying in
tree
the water
stump.
with her eyes
"Speak,
closed.
where's my man?"
Suddenly,
Feng Jiu
she
shouted.
seemed to have sensed
She
something.
pulled out the
She
Qingfeng
immediately
sword
raised her
and
chi
pointed it
and
at the
splashed the
demonic
water.
tree.
As
At
she
the same
increased
time,
her strength, she
The
quickly put
sharp
on her inner
sword
clothes
tip pierced
and put on
into
her
the
outer
human-shaped
clothes.
tree
She didn't even
stump.
bother to tie
Slivers
the
of
belt of her outer
liquid
clothes
seeped out,
and rushed outside,
accompanied by the
Lung
pleading
Shuang,
of the demonic
who was
tree.
guarding outside.
"Don't kill me.
Did not know what was
Don't
going
kill
on.
me.
But
I'll
when she
bring
saw
you
her
there."
master rushing
It hurriedly
outside
begged
while
for
fastening his
mercy.
belt,
She
afraid
knew
that its
that it was
hundreds of
urgent.
years of
She immediately
cultivation
followed
would be
after him.
destroyed. The masked
However,
man in the courtyard
the tree
next door
demon
also
led the way in
seemed to
front.
sense
As they
something
walked,
strange.
Feng
Under
Jiu
the
glanced at
mask,
the ground
his brows
without batting an
slightly
eyelid.
furrowed.
She secretly
and his
gathered
originally
a wisp of
closed
flame in her
eyes
palm.
suddenly opened.
In the next moment,
He rushed outside.
she suddenly
struck out her palm and slapped the ground beside her that seemed to be pitch black with nothing else. Bang! Ah! With a bang, the palm wind and flames struck down. Following that, a blood-curdling scream rang out. Some black liquid splashed out from the ground. Feng Jiu waved her hand and swept the splashed liquid to the other side. The demonic tree wanted to take the opportunity to escape. She coldly snorted. With a sweep of the Qingfeng sword in her hand, she cut off the branches on the human-shaped tree stump. Ah! The demonic tree was shocked. It instinctively squatted down. Seeing the branches on the ground, it trembled and turned its head back. It said to Feng Jiu, I can't bring you to the front. Otherwise, the demonic king will kill me. Then you're not afraid that I'll kill you? Or do you want to have a taste of being burned as firewood? Feng Jiu glanced at it, playing with a cluster of flames in his hand, and threatened in a cold voice. Looking at the life, heavenly flame, the tree demon was scared. He shrank his body and said, No, I'll take you there. I'll take you there, okay? Only then did it accept its fate and lead Feng Jiu forward. When they arrived in front of the big tree, it shrank back and said, Go in there. It's right there. Feng Jiu looked at the place the tree demon was pointing at. It was a huge, lush tree. The trunk of the tree would probably need 7 or 8 people to surround it. The demonic aura around the tree was slightly thicker, but other than that, there was nothing special about it. How do we get in? Feng Jiu asked. Turn left and right around the tree trunk. Then hit the tree trunk and shout open. Then it will open. The dryad whispered as it observed its surroundings. Underground palace? Feng Jiu raised his eyebrows. Yes. Your 2 people were caught by the demonic empress herself. They were caught inside. The demonic empress loves to absorb the essence of cultivators. If you don't want to see them reduced to bones, you better go in quickly. The tree demon said as it retreated. It was afraid that Feng Jiu would come to settle the score with it. Feng Jiu glanced at it and followed its instructions. He circled left and right around the tree. Finally, he hit the tree trunk and shouted, "Open!" Chapter 4672. It was an underground palace. As she walked down the stairs, she could faintly hear sounds coming from inside. On the walls on both sides, clusters of faint green will-o'-the-wisps floated, illuminating the path beneath her feet. The faint green will-o'-the-wisp's glow also added a strange aura to the place. The will-o'-the-wisps danced inside, and there was also a flow of aura in the air. Clearly, this underground palace had more than one entrance. Somewhere it should be connected to the outside world. Unexpectedly, after she entered, she did not see a single demon. As she walked, she realized that this underground palace led to a cave in the mountain. It seemed that on the other side, a large group of demons had gathered. She stood close to the stone wall, slightly tilting her body to look at the place where the will-o'-the-wisps floated. She saw that the sound she heard earlier was coming from there. At this moment, there were about 100 demons of different shapes and sizes. In the middle of those demons, who else could it be but Du Fan and Lung Hua? Seeing that the two of them seemed to have fainted and were unconscious, but seeing them being hung upside down by those demons, a trace of anger arose in her heart. Her gaze swept across and landed on two great demons among those demons. One of them was a demoness with heavy makeup and a seductive face. The demonic aura on her body was extremely strong, not to mention her seductive appearance. Just the demonic aura on her body made it hard for people to ignore her. On the other hand, the face of the one at the side couldn't be seen clearly. It was as though there was a layer of mist covering his face. One could only feel a powerful demonic aura emanating from his body. Needless to say, these two should be the Demon King and Demon Empress that the tree demon mentioned. Just as she was thinking about how to save Du Fan and Lung Hua, she heard a voice coming from inside. "Why did you bring these two people back? They're the subordinates of that ghost Dr. Fengjiu. If you capture her people, she will definitely come looking for you. Won't you be causing trouble then?" The Demon King's voice carried some worry. Looking at the two cultivators who were hung upside down, he said to the Demon Empress beside him, "Let them go. Just pretend that you don't know that they are here." When the Demon Empress heard this, she raised her coquettish eyes and glanced at him. "Put it back. Don't forget that the immortals up there told us to take care of them. If we let them leave just like that, how are we going to explain it to them?" She paused and played with her bright red nails. "Besides, even if we let them go, those immortals won't let us go. Besides, they said that as long as we succeed, we will be rewarded." Oomph. How could the words of those people be taken seriously? In my opinion, they want to borrow the hands of that ghost Dr. Fengjiu to exterminate our Yao clan. Otherwise, why would they send them to us instead of other places? Was Fengjiu a pushover? She's the Lord of Heaven and Earth. Back then, when the Devil Lord fought with her, he ended up with his soul scattered. Our strength isn't even as strong as the Devil Lord, and she doesn't have any conflict of interest with us. Why should we provoke her? The Demon King said coldly. Looking at Du Fan and Lung Hua, he said to the Demon Empress, "Let them go. Let them leave as soon as possible." Chapter 4673. How can that be the same? Just listen to me. There won't be a mistake. The Demon King said, "I really want to meet her, but I'm afraid she won't come." The Demon Empress chuckled and didn't take the Demon King's words to heart. Fengjiu listened for a moment and her heart moved. She quietly retreated to a dark corner and took out a talisman from her spatial zone. With a twist of her hand, the talisman flew out. Not long later, her voice came from the direction she came from. "Hand over my people." The voice came from the other side and echoed because of the underground palace. The voice was cold and carried killing intent. In an instant, the hundreds of demons were shocked and quickly dispersed. Not good. It must be that Fengjiu. The Demon King was shocked, and his voice carried a trace of panic. He didn't want to be enemies with Fengjiu and didn't want to fight with her. If they fought their way in, then what are you afraid of? I'll go meet her. The Demon Empress snorted and twisted her body like a water snake. She said to the small demons,
Leave a few to watch. The rest, follow me. Yes. As soon as the order was given, the demons followed the demon empress and walked towards the palace in a grandiose manner. When they moved forward, Fengjiu flashed and came to the side of Du Fan and Leng Hua. She slashed with the sharp blade in her hand and killed a few demons that were guarding at the side. With a slash of the green-edged sword she put them down. You, the demon king was originally sitting and sighing when he suddenly saw a red figure flash out. He was instantly shocked. When he looked closely, he saw that the person was dressed in red and had an extremely beautiful appearance. Her aura was restrained, but her entire body was emitting a powerful and intimidating aura. Even though he had never seen Fengjiu before, he knew that this woman was definitely the ghost Dr. Fengjiu. You're the ghost Dr. Fengjiu? The demon king looked at her, and the face in the mist gradually revealed its facial features. It was not outstanding, but on the contrary, it was a little scary. At this moment, it was staring at Fengjiu. Fengjiu ignored it. Instead, he pinched Leng Hua and Du Fan's Runzhong acupuncture points to wake them up. If she wasn't worried that those demons would attack them, she wouldn't even have to waste an incarnation talisman to lure them away. Master, when the two of them woke up, they were startled for a moment. They quickly got up, but they felt that their legs were a little numb, as if it was caused by a blockage of blood and qi. It's good that you're awake. As Fengjiu spoke, he looked at the demon king and said, From what you said just now, someone wants to borrow your hands to kill me. Do you know who they are? As she spoke, she slowly walked forward. Her green-tipped sword, which was suffused with a sharp green glow, was pointed diagonally at the ground as she approached step by step. The demon king's strength wasn't weak, but he didn't want to be Fengjiu's enemy, so he didn't want to attack. He hurriedly said, Let's talk things over. I want to know, who exactly are those people you're talking about? Fengjiu asked. They. As soon as the demon king's voice was heard, there was a commotion. Kill them. The demon empress' voice was heard, and she ordered the small demons to go forward. The reason why Du Fan and Leng Hua were hit at the beginning was probably because they were careless and didn't expect that it would be these monsters. At this moment, seeing these monsters attacking them, Du Fan sneered and said, Then let's see who kills who. Chapter 4674. Swish, clang, bang, bang, bang. For a moment, the sharp sound of air currents, the sound of swords clashing, and the heavy sound of attacks resounded in the underground palace. The scene instantly became chaotic. Over 100 demons surrounded Fengjiu and the other two. Green demon blood splattered all over the ground. Screams and roars echoed in the underground palace, lingering for a long time. Stop fighting, stop fighting. All of you stop. The demon king roared loudly. However, Fengjiu and the others wouldn't listen to him. The demons covered their heads and fled in all directions. Seeing that they couldn't escape, they could only fight to the death. Some of them revealed their true forms to fight. However, facing Fengjiu, Du Fan, and Leng Hua, these demons' combat strength was still too weak. The only ones who could fight against them were probably the demon king and the demon empress. Looking at the dead little demons on the ground, a trace of bloodthirsty savagery flashed through the demon empress' eyes. She stared at Fengjiu's peerlessly beautiful face and looked at her body, revealing a strange smile. She spread out her hands and twisted her body, transforming into a snake demon with a human face and a snake body. As the snake body and hands moved, a faint hissing sound could be heard amidst the chaos. Fengjiu looked down and saw snakes slithering out from the ground. Some were as thin as chopsticks, some were the size of a finger, and some were 2 fingers wide. These snakes were brightly colored, and some even had bright crowns on their heads. Just by looking at the color of these snakes, one could tell that they were extremely poisonous. Although the 3 of them had poison-resistant physiques, and even poison couldn't do anything to them, no one was willing to be bitten by these snakes. Thus, when Fengjiu slashed out a sword qi with the Qingfeng sword in her hand, she raised the flame in her palm and injected it into the sword qi.
The flame followed the sword chi and suddenly shot out with a whoosh, burning the ground. "Get behind me!" Feng Jiu shouted clearly, telling Du Fan and Lung Hua to return to her side. When the two heard her voice, they simultaneously leaped up and quickly came to their master's side. However, just as they stood behind her, they saw a red figure rush out, heading straight for the Demon Empress. Seeing Feng Jiu make a move, the Demon King instinctively wanted to help. However, after taking a step forward, he stopped. Ghost Dr. Feng Jiu was the master of heaven and earth. Even in the demon realm, he had heard of her powerful methods. Her strongest point wasn't her heaven-defying alchemy skills, but her shocking combat strength. How many experts had to die in her hand for her name, Ghost Dr. Feng Jiu, to spread throughout the world? He didn't dare to provoke her, nor did he dare to make her his enemy. Because he knew that if he made her his enemy, he would be the one to die in the end. He just didn't expect that the people above would trick them. They sent Feng Jiu here. Whether Feng Jiu killed them or they killed Feng Jiu, it was a win-win situation for those people. But now, things had developed to this point, and he couldn't stop it. He knew that the Demon Empress would definitely die. If he dared to make a move, even he would definitely die under Feng Jiu's sword. Chapter 4675. Green demonic blood splattered as the Demon Empress' head was chopped off and flew out, rolling among the demons. One of the demons didn't seem to be able to react as it blankly reached out to catch the flying head. Just like that, it looked at the Demon Empress' head and her eyes that were wide open with fear and unwillingness. It was so frightened that it shrieked. Following that shriek, the little demon instinctively threw the Demon Empress' head up to someone else. This time, no one stood there foolishly to catch the demon head. Instead, they automatically retreated and allowed the Demon Empress' head to fall to the ground and roll a few times until it stopped moving. The surrounding demons didn't dare to make a single sound. They widened their eyes in shock and fear as they watched the Demon Empress' head being chopped off. They watched as the Demon Empress' snake body fell to the ground with a bang and was stepped on by the red-clothed human lady. Then, the green glowing sword in her hand directly and ruthlessly stabbed down. Just like that, she cut open the Demon Empress' stomach in front of all the demons and took out the Demon Empress' snake gallbladder and her inner core. Even if they were demons, they were so shocked by that bloody and cruel scene that their faces turned pale. They swallowed their saliva and retreated, afraid that they would end up like the Demon Empress. The Demon King was also shocked by that scene. It didn't expect that Feng Jiu would directly take out the Demon Empress' snake gallbladder and inner core without saying anything. Furthermore, she cut open the Demon Empress' stomach in front of all the demons. That scene and that method shocked even the Demon King. Does anyone still want to die? I don't mind sending it on its way. Feng Jiu turned around and swept her cold gaze across all the demons before finally landing on the Demon King. Being swept by her gaze, all the demons instinctively retreated and didn't dare to make a sound. The Demon King looked at the dead Demon Empress and seemed to want to say something. In the end, it only turned into a sigh. I advised it not to go against you. I didn't expect that. Feng Jiu looked at him coldly and said, "You have no intention of opposing me. Even if you're a demon, I will not attack you. However, if you want to avenge your Demon Empress, I will naturally accompany you." The underground flames were still burning. The demons avoided the flames and looked at their Demon King. "I naturally do not wish to go against the Ghost Doctor." The Demon King sighed and said, "The Demon Empress is in the wrong for capturing your men. Now that you have killed her, I hope that Ghost Physician can be magnanimous and let my little demons go. As for what Ghost Physician wants to know, I will tell you everything I know." Feng Jiu's eyes flickered when she heard this. She glanced at the Demon King and immediately waved her hand to extinguish the burning flames. However, as the flames were extinguished, the smell of burnt flesh wafted out from the ground. It was very pungent. "Ghost Physician, this way, please," the Demon King said and gestured for them to enter. Feng Jiu saw and followed him forward. Behind them, Du Fan and Lung Hua followed unhurriedly. They followed the Demon King to a cave abode. It was a cave abode at the bottom of a mountain. Unlike the underground palace, it looked more like a place where the Demon King cultivated. Ghost Physician, have a seat. Chapter 4676. His voice paused for a moment. A trace of hesitation could be seen on his face. Then, as if he had made up his mind about something, he clenched his teeth and said, I didn't want things to turn out this way. I didn't want to be enemies with the ghost doctor, and I didn't know that they would send her to our demon realm. We only found out after she came to our side. Those people above want us to kill you, and the demon empress didn't even discuss with me before capturing your two subordinates. I doubt Fengjiu interrupted him. I already know all this. What I want to know is about those people who want to kill me. Those four are the four great experts of the immortal realm, also known as the four great emperors. That's all I know. I don't know anything else. After all, the immortal realm isn't a place where we can go. The Demon King said, indicating that he didn't know much else. For great emperors? Fengjiu's eyes flashed. After a moment of silence, he asked, I saw a barrier set up in the sky of the demon realm. Now that we want to leave, do you have a way to send us away? Of course, I can send you away. Hearing that she wanted to leave, the Demon King's heart relaxed. This killing god, he didn't dare to let her stay in the demon realm. Since she was willing to leave, he would naturally send her away as soon as possible. Then let's go. My flying ship is parked some distance away from here. If you send us away, we'll drop this matter. Fengjiu said slowly, glancing at the surrounding demons. And so, Fengjiu led the Demon King, Du Fan, Lung Hua, and the others in the direction of the flying ship. At the flying ship, the surroundings were pitch black. Demon Qi was surging in the air, and faintly there was a little bit of green light floating in the air. The masked man stood at the bow of the ship with the three children by his side. Lung Hua also stood at the side, waiting for her master to return. The surroundings were quiet, and no one on the airship spoke. Fire Phoenix landed on the shoulder of Mu Chun and also didn't speak. The two cloud-swallowing beasts were lying on the side. Perhaps feeling that the atmosphere was somewhat oppressive, Yuer pulled the robe of the masked man. Feeling his robe being pulled, he turned around and lowered his head to look at the little guy beside him. Seeing her delicate and cute little face, his eyes couldn't help but soften as he asked, What's wrong? Will anything happen to my mother? Yuer raised her head and asked. Her beautiful eyes were filled with worry. Hearing this, his lips curled into a smile. No, with your mother's strength, even if she were to meet the ruler of the demon realm, she would still be able to win. Then can we leave from here? Yuer asked again. Don't worry. As long as I'm not here, nothing will happen. Moreover, your mother is also not someone to be trifled with. So even if it is somewhat troublesome, in the end, we will definitely leave this place safely. He rubbed the head of Yuer and revealed a smile. Then are the people who want to harm us very powerful? My mother can't beat them now. Since you're so powerful, then do you know where my father is now? When will he come back? Yuer grabbed the hand that was rubbing her head and threw out one question after another. Children shouldn't think too much. These questions are useless. He smiled but didn't answer her. Chapter 4677. Seeing the great demon behind Fengjiu, the masked man's eyes flashed with a smile as he muttered, Looks like things are going to be interesting from now on. The archfiend followed Fengjiu to the outside of the ship. When he saw the ancient mythological beast Fire Phoenix and the two sacred beasts, his eyes narrowed. He didn't go in, but said to Fengjiu, Ghost Doctor, you guys go in. I'll send you guys out. Okay. Fengjiu replied and brought Du Fan and Lung Hua to the barrier. Mother, you're back. Mother. The three children quickly came to her side. Seeing that she had returned safely, the three of them revealed happy smiles. You're back. Let's go. Mother will bring you guys into the cabin. The archfiend will send us out, but the ship will probably still shake. She took the three children into the cabin, but she didn't let them stay in the cabin. Instead, she directly sent them into the space. After closing the cabin door, Fengjiu walked out and gestured for Du Fan and the others to sit down so that they wouldn't be shaken out. The masked man stood at the front of the ship. He glanced at Fengjiu and said, "It looks like I still underestimated you." Fengjiu glanced at him and slowly said, "You should be glad that we're not enemies." Hearing this, the masked man smiled and looked at the sky. "Indeed, those who were your enemies should be restless right now." Fengjiu didn't say anything, because at this moment, the archfiend outside the ship was emitting a huge amount of demonic qi. His figure instantly became 10 times bigger, as if he was holding up the sky. He let out a low roar and his hands tore a hole in the sky. The hole was pushed open by the demonic qi, as if it wanted to close, but couldn't. The Demon King stretched out his hand and lifted the spaceship that was parked below and sent it through the exit in the sky. As the spaceship was sent out, the opening behind it also closed as if it had never appeared. "We're back." Fengjiu looked at the familiar sky. At this moment, it was already dark, but the sky was dotted with stars. The spiritual energy in the air faintly flowed. The aura was so familiar. She smiled and controlled the ship to fly slowly while walking into the cabin. Not long after, she brought the 3 children out. "Mother, we're back." Happily jumped up and down on the ship. Fengjiu smiled and bent down to pick her up. She looked at the masked man. 2 more days. I'll accompany them for 2 days. After 2 days, you can take them away." She also knew that the current situation was not suitable for the 3 children to be by her side. Even if she was reluctant to part with them, they would have to part in the end. Yuer's mother. Mother's mother's mother's. To her mother two's on her own. Fengjiu sighed softly and said, "Yuer, be good. Mother is doing this for your own good. You saw what happened today. This isn't the first time, and it won't be the last. If you follow Mother, sooner or later, you'll encounter danger again." Yuer listened to her and didn't say anything. Hao and Mu Chun, who were standing at the side, lowered their heads and closed their eyes. It was unknown what they were thinking. Chapter 4678. The masked man curled his lips when he heard the word master from the little girl's mouth. He smiled and said, "Little girl, it seems that you will only call me master when you need my help. Unfortunately, even I am unable to fulfill your request." "Why can't you do it? Didn't you say you were very powerful?" Yuer asked. He chuckled. "No matter how powerful I am, I can't block the light of her star the Phoenix. If I bring her up to the immortal realm, it will really be a mess up there." He looked at Fengjiu and said, "Although I can't bring you up there, you can ascend on your own in the future. By then, you should have the ability to fight with those people. You will only be useful when you ascend. If you ascend now, you can only flee everywhere. Just help me protect the 3 children. I don't need to trouble you with anything else. If I want to ascend, I will naturally be able to do so. There's no need to rush," Fengjiu said. He looked at him and said, 2 days. You can take them with you in 2 days. Okay. He didn't say much and directly agreed. In the next 2 days, Fengjiu spent most of his time with the 3 children. He taught them some things and gave them some things to store in their space as a precaution. They especially cherished the time they had left together. However, no matter how reluctant they were, the day had finally arrived. Early in the morning, the flying ship was still slowly flying. Everyone on the ship gathered at the bow and looked at the masked man and the 3 children. "Mother, what should we do when we miss you in the future?" Yuer threw herself into Fengjiu's arms with tears in her eyes. Although Hao and Mu Chun didn't say anything, their eyes were also red. They stood quietly at the side and looked at their mother as if they wanted to engrave her face in their minds. "It's okay. When you get there, listen to your master's words and cultivate. After sending you off, I will also go into seclusion for a period of time. When the time is right, I will prepare to ascend. When everything is settled, I will personally look for you," she said softly, comforting their young and uneasy hearts. "Mother, what about Father? Will Father come with Mother to find us?" Mu Chun couldn't help but ask. "We will. Mother and your father will come to look for you. So before that, you must be obedient and don't run around. Take good care of yourselves and don't distract Mother and Father." Fengjiu held his hand and then Haoer's. He put their hands together and said, "You three siblings must support each other and grow up safely." "Yes, yes. Mother, we understand. We will definitely be obedient." The three of them nodded heavily as they spoke, their eyes full of seriousness. "You can keep this item. Maybe it can help you in the future." The masked man handed something to Fengjiu. It looked like a seal, but it also looked like an immortal tool. Fengjiu did not refuse and took it with both hands. "Thank you. In the future, the three children will have to trouble you." "Okay, then we'll go first. In the future, we will meet in the immortal realm." As he spoke, he glanced at Fengjiu and formed an ancient seal with both hands. He pointed at the three children's eyebrows. With a flash of golden light, the three children disappeared. Chapter 46-79. Fengjiu stared blankly as the golden light disappeared into the sky along with the three children. Her heart was filled with reluctance and disappointment. She stood at the bow of the ship and watched silently for a long time before returning to the cabin. "I'm going to rest for a bit. Call me when we reach Heavenly Mountain." Du Fan, Lung Hua, and Lung Shuang sighed in their hearts. They also couldn't bear for the three little masters to leave, but they also knew that leaving was the best option for them. In the upper immortal realm, in a palace, four great experts were sitting together discussing matters. "Didn't you say that Fengjiu was sent to the demon realm? Why did I hear that the demon king sent her back? What the hell is going on? Did you not send someone to investigate?" A man in black robes who looked to be in his 30s asked in a deep voice. His eyes were as sharp as a blade, making it hard for others to look straight at him. Who knew that the demon king would be so cowardly? He didn't even dare to take revenge after seeing the demon empress killed, and instead sent Fengjiu's group away. Another person frowned, his dignified face filled with displeasure. What a waste of such a good opportunity. Fengjiu is the destined phoenix star. How could she die so easily in the demon realm? In my opinion, Fengjiu's life should be taken by us. Others can't be counted on. The one who spoke was a middle-aged man. He stood up with his hands behind his back and looked at the other three. "Just wait. There will always be a chance to take her life. That Xinyuan Mose, didn't he die in our hands?" Speaking of that Xinyuan Mose, it's said that the spiritual energy in that world hasn't completely dissipated and is still gradually solidifying. I'm afraid that Xinyuan Mose isn't dead yet. Perhaps he's still recuperating somewhere, waiting for an opportunity. Another person frowned in thought. If that's the case, then it's a bit troublesome. The other person took a sip of the spirit tea and said disapprovingly, "What trouble? If they want to ascend, they'll have to go through 81 heavenly lightning bolts. Are we afraid we won't have a chance to interfere? No matter how strong they are, can they be stronger than the four of us?" That's true. However, the growth of the two of them is too shocking. If they're allowed to grow, they will become the rulers of the world. At that time, how can we still have the status of the four great emperors? A mere little cultivator from the lower realms. Even if he controls a part of the world, if he dares to compete with us, we will naturally not tolerate him. The middle-aged man snorted. If they want to ascend, we'll have to see if they have the ability. They looked at each other and smiled at the same time. They picked up their teacups and took a sip. One of them said, "That's right. We are the almighty beings of the world and the great emperors of the four directions." How difficult is it for us to take the lives of those two? If we want them to live, they won't die. If we want them to die, they won't live either. Ha ha, well said. Come, let me use tea in place of wine to toast you all. Another person laughed heartily and toasted them with a cup of spirit tea. Chapter 46-80. They drank spiritual tea and chatted for a while. When they stood up and were about to leave, one of them suddenly stopped and looked back at the three of them. Speaking of which, it seems that there hasn't been much news about Emperor Qing of Cloud Sky Mountain recently. He has never interacted with us, and we haven't paid much attention to him. Why did you suddenly mention him? Another person asked. I just feel like I haven't seen him for a long time. Last year, the South Sea Emperor held a banquet, but I didn't see him. Emperor Qing has always thought highly of himself and never interacted with us. Moreover, I heard that his beloved disciple failed to pass the tribulation and was reduced to ashes. I don't think he'll come out easily. Although we haven't fought against him, I've always heard people say that Emperor Qing is the strongest among all the great emperors. Especially after he came out of seclusion a few years ago, his strength increased greatly. One of them had a serious expression. He sighed softly and said, "But fortunately, he doesn't care about the affairs of all the great emperors and has always been a lone wolf. This is good. He won't get in our way." When they heard this, they nodded and didn't say anything else as they walked out. Emperor Qing's strength was unfathomable, but he was also someone who didn't care about the outside world. Since he wouldn't get in their way, they naturally wouldn't pay too much attention to him. Right now, they still had to deal with Fengjiu. The two titles of the Star of the Phoenix and the Master of the World were really a big threat to them, and the person they were afraid of had already arrived at the foot of Sky Mountain in a spaceship. Fengjiu looked at the snow-white Sky Mountain and said to Du Fan and the others, "Wait for me here. I'll go up and take a look." As she spoke, she got out of the spaceship and headed up the mountain. However, what she didn't expect was that when she stepped into the boundary of Sky Mountain and wanted to go up the mountain, she found that she couldn't. Looking at the boundary that appeared because of her touch, her eyes moved slightly and she stopped in her tracks. Only then did she notice that the entire Sky Mountain was covered by the boundary. The powerful boundary was like a transparent cover that protected Sky Mountain. She stared at it in a daze, and for a moment, she was a little lost. Was it because of Tianjizi's death that the boundary of Sky Mountain was activated? Or was it because of something else? Is Mo Chun still on Sky Mountain? Or had he already ascended to become an immortal? Questions surfaced in her mind one after another. However, she didn't forcefully break through the barrier. Instead, she paused for a moment before turning around and walking towards the spaceship. Not long after Fengjiu left, Du Fan and the others also discovered the barrier that had appeared on Tianshan Mountain. Just as they were feeling surprised, they saw their master return. "Master, are we unable to go up?" Du Fan asked. Fengjiu shook his head and said, "They set up a barrier. I think they don't want anyone to go up." Hearing this, they looked at each other. In the end, Leng Hua asked, "Master, where are we going next?" Fengjiu looked at the sky, pondered for a moment, and said, "Go back. Next, I need to find a place to cultivate in seclusion. Investigate and see if you can find out where Mose is. If you have any news, inform me." Chapter 4681. In a certain part of the sea, Xianyuan Mose, who was nowhere to be found, was sleeping in the deep sea. He was surrounded by unfathomable seawater, and his whole body seemed to be surrounded by a bubble. He lay quietly in it, motionless. His breath was extremely weak, as if he was dead. In the deep sea, there were some spiritual fish and sea monsters swimming in the depths of the sea. However, they all naturally avoided the place where Xianyuan Mose was. The bubble on his body was suffused with a gentle light, and its breath was extremely strong. The bubble was suffused with a layer of faint cyan light. In the deep sea, if one did not look carefully, they would not be able to detect it. Those spiritual fish and sea monsters in the deep sea did not dare to approach Xianyuan Mose. However, the spiritual breath in the sea seeped into his body, and he did not feel it all. He just lay there quietly, sleeping in the immortal world at Cloud Sky Mountain. The three children were sleeping in a thatched hut. Perhaps it was the sunlight outside that shone in. Hao-er, who was on the bed, opened his eyes and sat up. When he saw the simple and crude thatched hut, he was startled for a moment as if he had thought of something. After a while, he came back to his senses. Mu Chun and Mu Yu, who were on the other two beds, rubbed their eyes and sat up as well. "Big brother, what's wrong?" Yu asked. Because she had just woken up, her hair was a little messy. However, even her messy hair made her delicate little face look adorable. "Nothing. I just thought that I should get up and cultivate." "How?"
said, and looked at the sky outside. The morning sun was gentle and warm. It was very comfortable. He got out of bed and said to the two, "You two also get up and wash up. We will go outside to cultivate." "Okay." The two little ones responded and got up to wash up. After a simple wash, Ur came to find How with messy hair. "Big brother, help me tie my hair." How had just stretched his muscles and bones, and after hearing the sound, he turned around. Seeing Ur with messy hair coming over, he walked over and said, "Ur, big brother will teach you how to tie it yourself. You will properly learn how to tie it, okay?" Hearing this, Ur raised her head and looked at him, then finally nodded her head. "Okay." Ur is so obedient. How smiled and praised her. He then led her back to the room and had her sit in front of the bronze mirror while teaching her how to tie her hair. Ur also earnestly watched and learned. Merely, she couldn't help but ask, "Big brother, how come we haven't seen our master since he came back? How could he just leave us here and not care about us? Does he not want us anymore? If he doesn't want us, will he send us back to mother?" Hearing this, Mu-chun also listened attentively. Ever since they came back, they had not seen the person who brought them here and said that he was their master. Moreover, they had been thrown here to live in the thatched hut for a few days. Other than the three of them, there was no one else here. Chapter 4682. Mu-chun and Mu-yu looked outside, and when they saw the Bai-fong divine bird, they didn't say anything. These days, they indeed didn't see their unreliable master, but this divine bird has been guarding them here, and also brought them some spirit feather chicken as food. "Well, Ur, do you know how to tie it?" Howard looked at her and asked. Ur looked at her and nodded with a smile, and Ur knows how to tie it. Moreover, Ur also knows how to braid it. Later on, Ur will tie her own hair. "And that's good, let's go. Let's go outside to cultivate," he said to the two. "Okay." The two followed him out and went to the open space outside, and followed him to learn each and every move. The Bai-fong divine bird, which had been flying in the sky for a while, glanced down at them, then landed on another mountain not far away, watching the three of them gesticulating. At noon, that Bai-fong divine bird on the mountain seemed to have sensed something and looked towards the direction of the main peak, and with a flap of its wings, it flew towards that direction. And at that main peak, the stone door of an immortal's cave slowly opened, and a white figure walked out from inside. His steps were steady and elegant, and along with his walk, his white robe slightly fluttered, as if his body carried an immortal aura, making people unconsciously hold their breath, as if they were afraid of alarming the immortal in the mountain. Other than his outstanding immortal temperament, his appearance was also extremely outstanding. His unforgettable appearance could be said to be a banished immortal. However, his immortal aura was like that of a banished immortal, but because of his pair of peach blossom eyes, it added a bit of evil. His entire body exuded an aura that was both good and evil. His black hair was casually draped over his shoulders, and there wasn't even a hairband to tie his hair, just casually and naturally draped over his shoulders. As he walked out of the immortal's cave, he looked at the sky and saw that Bai-fong divine bird had returned to his side. He then hooked his lips and asked, "How are those three little guys?" "They came to look for you after they woke up, but they have been cultivating by themselves for the past few days. They tried to run around, but I stopped them. I let them move around the thatched hut." "Master, do you want to see them?" the Bai-fong divine bird asked, tilting its head to look at him. "It's time to meet them. Go and bring them here," he said as he slowly walked to the stone table under the big tree and sat down. The Bai-fong divine bird flapped its wings and flew away. When it came to the three children, it stopped beside them and said, "Come on up. I'll take you to see my master." Hearing this, Mu-chun, and Mu-yu were startled. They looked at each other and jumped onto the back of the divine bird. Their hands tightly grasped the feathers, and their bodies rose up with the divine bird. They looked around and felt the wind blowing against their faces. Therefore, they closed their eyes. After a while, they felt the Bai-fong bird stop. "We're here. Come down." As the Bai-fong bird said,
it squatted down and let the three children down. The three of them looked around, and their eyes naturally fell on the person sitting under the tree. For a moment, the three of them were slightly startled because they felt that this person didn't look like the master who brought them here. Chapter 4683. Hearing this, the Qing Emperor tilted his head slightly, glanced at her, and laughed in spite of himself. "Little girl, have you forgotten your master?" He turned around, raised his hand, and swept the surroundings, saying, "Then look around. Do you feel the slightest bit familiar?" After hearing his words, Yu Er's eyes widened, and her pair of big eyes seemed to be able to speak as she stared at him. After a long while, her soft voice was filled with surprise as she said, "Master, it doesn't look like it. Although that strange master always wears a mask, I can also recognize that he doesn't look like you. Besides, this is the first time I've come here, so how can I feel that it's familiar?" The Qing Emperor smiled and said, "That body was only used when I descended to the mortal world, and it wasn't my real body. This is my real body. Your mother already knew about this matter, but because her spirit was somewhat unstable after she came back, she had to rest for a few days. So, you're the master that we've worshipped?" Yu blinked her eyes, still staring at him. She felt that her master's pair of eyes were very good-looking. It was as if he had been smiling all along, making her unable to help but want to smile along with him. "And it's the real deal." He chuckled, glanced at the three of them, and said, 3 days later, Master will remove the blood curse on your body. At that time, your contracted beasts that are suppressed will also wake up. However, Master wants to tell you that you also know that you're in a dangerous situation. There are many people outside who want to take your lives, and even use you to threaten your mother. You three little troublemakers have been handed over to me by your mother. In the future, you must listen to Master's words, and don't provoke unnecessary trouble. The three of them nodded and responded. In addition, Qing Ming Emperor is Master's honorific name. People outside call me Emperor Qing. You must remember, from now on, if anyone asks who your master is, you must say that Qing Ming Emperor of Cloud Sky Mountain is your master. Master's name outside can also protect you from being bullied by various experts. He said indifferently, looking at the three children. Seeing that they were listening seriously, he was very satisfied. The corners of his mouth slightly curled up, and a trace of a smile appeared in his eyes. "And then we understand," the three of them earnestly said, secretly remembering what he had said. "Also, now that you're under my tutelage, you don't need to use your previous names. I'll give you new names. In the future, when you're outside, you can just use the names I've given you. As for your original names, you must remember not to mention them. Otherwise, you'll get yourself killed. Do you understand?" He continued, "Master, the three of them, use Master." You are curiously. And when he said the name Yin Qi, his eyes slightly flashed, and he looked towards Yu. This little girl was crooking her head and muttering the name Yin Qi. Seeing this, his eyes couldn't help but soften. "Thank you, Master." "How?" And Mu Chun said in unison. They knew that if they changed their names, no one would know that their parents were Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu in the future. Chapter 4684. Yes, you'll be called Yin Qi. From now on, I'll call you Little Qi. He smiled as if he was in a very good mood. His entire person looked very happy. How? Glanced at him and felt that the name he gave her little sister was a little strange. Moreover, when he called her by her name, his expression was much gentler. Thinking about how he treated their little sister differently during this period of time and the current situation, he suppressed the doubts in his heart and did not ask. Compared to him, he trusted their mother's judgment more. Since their mother allowed them to acknowledge him as their master and follow him here, it was enough to prove that this person could be trusted. All right, next, I'll tell you about the situation here. He looked at the three children and said, "As you can see, there's no one else here other than you three. Therefore, you have to take care of your own food, clothing, housing, and transportation here.
This cloud sky mountain is protected by a boundary array, so outsiders can't enter. Similarly, you can't leave either. He looked at the three of them and walked slowly with his hands clasped behind his back. His lips curled up slightly as he said, "However, there are also spiritual medicine fields and spiritual fruit trees in this mountain. The ones that usually take care of the spiritual fruit trees and spiritual medicine fields are all puppets that I made. In this mountain, other than my cave residence, Little Seven's cave residence is ready-made. As for the two of you, you can go back and see which place you like and dig your own cave residence. The stone tables and chairs in the cave residence can also be cut down in the forest behind the mountain to make them. In here, you have to do everything by yourself. Of course. Of course, of course." He paused and looked at the three of them. "If you learn how to make puppets, you can also let the puppets help you do these things. Every half a year, I'll give you a small test, and every year, a big test. I'll bring you out to spar with other people. After 2 days, after the blood curse in your body is removed, I'll accompany you down the mountain and take you to the city to buy some things you need. You can prepare and see what you need to buy. In the future, you can leave the mountain once every 3 months, but I'll only take you this time. In the future, when you go down the mountain, you have to go by yourself." "Master, then can we go anywhere we want in the entire Cloud Sky Mountain?" The little girl blinked her beautiful big eyes and looked at him excitedly. "Yes, you can naturally go to Cloud Sky Mountain as you wish." Emperor Qing nodded and said to her, "Let's go. Master will bring you to take a look at your cave." "Okay," Ewer excitedly answered, then hurriedly pulled her 2 brothers and followed him towards the immortal cave. Following their master, they arrived at an immortal cave. Upon entering that immortal cave, however, Mu-chan and Ewer were slightly surprised because this immortal cave looked as if someone had lived here before. Everything inside was very complete. Moreover, at the side of this immortal cave, there was also a small kitchen. "Master, who used to live here?" Hao-er asked as he looked at the Qing Emperor, who was looking around the cave abode with his hands behind his back. "This is the place where your senior sister used to live in the past. However, she failed to cross the tribulation and turned into ashes. Since then, this place has always been empty." Cyan Emperor said. He looked at you, and said, "Little girl, you will live here in the future." Chapter 4685. "Okay, from now on, you will live here." He rubbed her head and said to her, "Take a look and see if you are lacking anything. After a few days, we will go down the mountain to buy it." "Okay." Ewer was all smiles as she answered. Howard looked at him and asked, "Master, can you teach us how to make puppets first?" They were still young. So many things were much more difficult for them to do by themselves. If they had puppets, it'd be a lot more convenient. Qing Emperor glanced at him and walked out with his hands behind his back. He said, "You all come with me." They followed him to the side of the stone table outside the cave. Seeing him take out several pieces of talisman paper, he took out cinnabar and a brush and placed them on the table. He said to them, "First, I will teach you how to use talisman to make puppets. For now, it will be easier for you to learn. Look carefully." He glanced at them and picked up the brush. After dipping it in cinnabar, he drew a rune on the talisman paper. He stopped writing and said to them, "Draw according to this rune. You must finish it in 1 stroke. When you lift the brush, you must pour your spiritual energy into the brush." "Master, can this be used as a puppet?" You, curiously looked at that talisman paper. Qing Emperor picked up that talisman paper, activated the talisman, and lightly threw it out. After that talisman landed on the ground, it transformed into a handsome young man. Seeing this, the 3 children couldn't help but open their eyes wide. Their eyes were full of amazement. "Go boil a pot of water and make a cup of tea," Qing Emperor instructed. That young puppet complied and turned around to prepare to boil water and make tea. Master, how did you do it?" "So awesome," you excitedly said. She stepped forward and said, I also want to learn. Qing Emperor smiled and said, "When you draw a talisman paper and activate it, you only need to think about what you want this puppet to look like, and it will transform according to your thoughts. However, this kind of talisman puppet has a time limit. In the future, when you learn how to make high-level puppets, you only need to stuff some crystal stones on it, and it will always listen to your orders. Moreover, it will also be a very good fighter. He stood up, brushed his robe, and said, "Okay, you all can learn first." He took out some talisman paper from the space and gave it to them. He also took out 2 talisman brushes and some cinnabar. Then he walked to a cool place. With a wave of his hand, a soft couch appeared in front of him, and he lay on it to rest. Although Mu Chun and Mu Yu were young, they were gifted and had always been intelligent and wise. On the other hand, they practiced Mu. And as soon as he opened his eyes and looked back, he saw how toss out a talisman. As it activated, the talisman transformed into a man. I didn't expect this child's talent and comprehension to be so outstanding. He only practiced for an afternoon, and he actually mastered it? How outstanding would he be when he grew up with such talent in the future? At this moment, he couldn't help but look forward to how amazing his 3 disciples would be when they grew up in the future. Chapter 4686. Mu Chin's eyes lit up with joy when he saw that his brother had finished drawing the talisman. He looked at his brother with adoration. In his heart, he secretly made up his mind to draw seriously and learn as soon as possible. Looked at the person who appeared with a smile on his little face. "Yes, I've learned it. Let me teach you." He stepped forward and stood beside the 2. "Let's stop here for today. It's getting dark, and you've practiced for the whole afternoon. Continue tomorrow." Emperor Qing walked over and looked at the 3. "Do you want to eat fasting pills or roast chicken? Master, do you have rice? I want to eat porridge." Ewer whispered, "No." He shook his head and looked at the little girl's disappointed expression. "Remember to buy some spirit rice when you go down the mountain in 2 days. You can also let the puppets plant spirit rice in the spiritual fields on the mountain." "Okay, then we'll buy some seeds and bring them back." She suddenly perked up and smiled with her eyes narrowed. Today, they ate roast chicken in the end. Because Hao and Mu Chun didn't have a cave residence yet, they went back to sleep in the thatched cottage. Yer didn't want to live in a cave residence alone, so she also slept in the thatched cottage with them. The next morning, Hao drew a talisman early in the morning and summoned a puppet to help him open up a cave residence. He and Mu Chun chose a place not far from Yuer's so that the 3 of them could keep each other company. After arranging for the puppet to open up the cave residence, he came back to teach Mu Chun and Mu Yu how to draw talismans. "It should be like this. Look, this is how you draw it." He held a brush and carefully taught. "You must inject your spiritual aura into the tip of the brush. Only with the cinnabar on the tip of the brush will the runes have spiritual aura." "Big brother, do you think mine looks like it?" Mu Chun picked up his own drawing and showed it to him. "It's done. This is already a talisman, and it's a 2nd-level one." Hao smiled and praised. Mu Chun is amazing. Because there was no one else in the mountain, they remembered the names their master had given them. They would use them when they left the mountain in the future. When there was no one else in the mountain, they would still use their old names out of habit. Big brother is the best. He's drawing 3rd-level talismans. Mu Chun said, "If I continue to draw, I can also draw 3rd-level talismans." "Yes, definitely." Hao nodded. While both of them were talking, Yu earnestly drew a talisman. Merely, the talisman she drew was somewhat crooked. Moreover, it was also relatively small. But she compared the talisman drawn by their master, and finally determined that the talisman she drew was not wrong. Big brother, look, I've also drawn it. I'm also a 2nd-rank talisman." She happily revealed a smiling face and waved the talisman in her hand. On the other side, the 3 of them practiced the talisman for the entire morning. After familiarizing themselves with it, they let the puppet do some work for them. The 3 of them planned to take the opportunity to walk around Cloud Sky Mountain and familiarize themselves with the various environments here. At the main peak, when Emperor Qing learned that the 3 of them had already learned how to draw the puppet talisman, his pair of peach blossom eyes curved, and a hint of an expectant smile appeared on his handsome face.
Chapter 4687. The Bifong bird, who was lying at the side, didn't even raise its head when it heard his words. It said, "These three people are originally from extraordinary backgrounds, so it's to be expected that they have outstanding talents. Their parents are Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu. How stupid can their children be? We didn't meet Xianyuan Mose this time, but Fengjiu is indeed not an ordinary person. It's only a matter of time before she becomes an immortal. Those people can't stop her." Emperor Qing said slowly as he looked at the sky and narrowed his eyes. On this day, however, Mu Chun and Mu Yu walked around the entire cloud sky mountain and familiarized themselves with each mountain. At the same time, they also saw the spiritual herbs and some spiritual fruit trees planted in the spiritual fields. They also knew that the entire cloud sky mountain was just as their master had said. Other than the three of them, there was only their master and the Bifong bird. The rest were at most puppets. "Big brother, why don't you think master lives alone in such a big place, but he doesn't take in many disciples like others? Wouldn't there be people to work for him?" Asked curiously as she walked while holding her two brothers' hands. Howard held her little hand. As they walked, he said, "Master's personality is mild. He has his reasons for not wanting to open a sect and accept disciples. As his disciples, we shouldn't ask too much about things that we shouldn't. Sometimes, knowing too much isn't beneficial. Big brother, Master will help us break the blood curse tomorrow. I'm a little worried." Mu Chun lowered his head and looked at the ground as he walked step by step. Howard gazed at him and said, "There's no need to worry. Master's strength is very strong. Moreover, Mother entrusted us to him and allowed us to take Master as our master. So, he's someone that Mother trusts. So, we have to trust him no matter what he does. Don't worry. Master will definitely break the blood curse." Hearing this, Mu Chun nodded in agreement. Hearing this, Yuer smiled and said, "After breaking the blood curse, Master will let us go down a mountain. Big brother, have you thought about what to buy?" Without waiting for the two to speak, she smiled and said, "I want to buy seeds. I want the puppet to help me grow spirit rice. In the future, we will have spirit rice to eat. I also want to buy a lot of things. Are you going to buy a pot or something? When we cook in the future, we will have to buy those, right?" Mu Chun said, and looked at Yuer. "There seems to be a pot in the small kitchen, but we could buy new ones and put some in the space." The three of them chatted as they walked towards the thatched hut. Perhaps because they had company, the three siblings were always together. Therefore, although they were away from their mother's side, as the days passed, they gradually got used to it. The next morning, they woke up early and washed up. Then, they went to their master's abode on the main peak to wait. Today was the day their master would remove the blood curse for them. They were a little nervous, but also a little expectant. Was fine because the blood curse on him had been broken long ago. Today, it was mainly Mu Chun and Mu Yu. However, what they didn't expect was that even though they had arrived early, their master slept until close to noon before waking up. "Come in." Chapter 4688. The inside of the cave residence was very big. Although it was called a cave residence, it was more like a small palace. Moreover, there were several smaller caves, each separated by a certain distance. The walls of the cave residence were illuminated by luminous pearls. There was also fresh air flowing in the cave residence. Obviously, there were other exits. "What are you waiting for? Come here." Emperor Qing gestured for the two younger ones to come forward. Mu Chun and Mu Yu walked forward and stopped in front of him. They looked at him, not knowing how he was going to help them break the blood curse. Emperor Qing glanced at the two standing in front of him and reached out to feel their pulse. After checking for a while, he stood up and walked to one of the caves. He said to the two of them, "You two, come with me." Seeing this, Mu Chun and Mu Yu hurriedly followed. However, wanted to follow and to take a look, but was stopped. "There are some books in the first cave on the left. Go in and take a look. You don't have to follow. You can't go in, and you can't help even if you come in." Emperor Qing said without looking back. Howard stopped and stood there watching them enter the cave. Although he was worried, It was just as their master had said. He wouldn't be of much help even if he went in. Therefore, he paused for a moment and walked toward the first cave on the left. Pushing open the stone door, it opened with a creak. After he walked in, the stone door closed. At that moment, it was as if the sound outside was isolated. He looked around and saw that there was a soundproof barrier set up inside. Thus, he gathered his thoughts and walked towards the bookshelves. There were 10 rows of bookshelves filled with books. He went forward to take a look and picked up a book on the mental cultivation method shelf. He opened it and couldn't help but be surprised. This was a top-notch mental cultivation method book. It was divided into the 5 elements. He flipped through it and put it back. Then he walked to the back and picked up another book to read. This was a sword technique book. When he opened the book, some of the sword technique pictures shocked him. He felt that it was extremely exquisite, and for a moment, he couldn't help but be immersed in it. While he was reading the manual, he accidentally lost track of time. While he was engrossed in it, his hands began to move uncontrollably. After an unknown amount of time, the stone door was pushed open and his master was standing outside. Only then did he regain his senses. He hurriedly put the sword back and hurried forward. Slightly worried, he asked, "Shurzuin, how are the 2 of them?" He looked behind him, but didn't see Mu Chun and Mu Yu. The blood curse has been broken, but they have fainted from the pain and are now sleeping in the cubicle. Emperor Qing said with his hands clasped behind his back. His face was paler than before, as if he had consumed a lot of spiritual energy to help them break the blood curse. The exhaustion between his eyebrows could not be concealed. "Master, how are you? Are you okay? Do you want to rest for a while? I'll get you a glass of water." Hao also noticed that his face was paler than before, so he quickly went to the stone table outside and poured a cup of water for him. Emperor Qing glanced at him and didn't refuse. Instead, he reached out to take the water and drank it. Then he handed the empty cup to him and said, "You don't have to worry about the 2 of them. The blood curse has been broken. Let them sleep, and they will be awake tomorrow. Go and see them, but don't wake them up. I also need to rest." Chapter 4689. Seeing this, Hao hurriedly went to the previous stone room to take a look. As soon as he entered, he saw Mu Chun and Mu Yu lying side by side on the stone bed. Their clothes were soaked with sweat and tightly stuck to their bodies. They seemed to be enduring severe pain. Their lips were slightly bitten by them, and their hair was also soaked with sweat and stuck together. The sweat on their forehead was also not yet dry. He didn't dare to wake them up, so he quietly looked after them for a while. He took out a handkerchief to help them wipe the sweat on their body, and secretly used his spiritual power to help them dry their clothes. Only then did he accompany them. They slept until the next morning before waking up. Mu Chun woke up first and saw his elder brother lying on the bed sleeping. Just as he was about to get out of bed, Yu also woke up. How did elder brother fall asleep here? Yu rubbed her eyes and asked while yawning. She had just woken up and her little face was still confused, as if she still didn't remember what happened yesterday. "You're awake." Hao also woke up at this time. Looking at them, he quickly asked, "How do you feel? Are you feeling better?" "Qilin," Mu Chun suddenly called, and with a flash of light, Qilin Beast appeared in front of them. Brothers Qilin came out. "Then can I also call out my little spirit fox?" Yu said in surprise, and quickly called out, "Little spirit fox, quickly come out." As soon as she finished speaking, the 9-tailed spirit fox appeared with a whoosh. It landed on the bed and looked around. It stretched and said, "Master, the blood curse on your body has been removed. That thing has been pressing down on us. We can't get out." "Great. The blood curse is really removed." Yu happily clapped her hands and quickly got out of bed, saying, "Today Master will take us down the mountain to buy things, right? Let's go find Master now." After Master helped you to remove the blood curse yesterday, I saw his complexion was somewhat pale. I don't know if he is better today. Hao said, but he didn't stop Yu from walking out. Who would have thought that when they came out of the stone room, they saw their master sitting at the stone table, drinking tea and reading a book. "Master, Master, Master." Yu quickly stepped forward and with a happy face she walked in front of him. Howard and Mu-chun, on the other hand, stood a little further away. They bowed respectfully and called out to him before standing aside. Emperor Qing glanced at the nine-tailed fox and the Qilin beast and said to them, "Take your contracted beasts back. Don't let them appear in front of others unless it is absolutely necessary." Seeing this, the two of them hurriedly recalled their contracted beasts back into the space. "Master, are we going down a mountain now? Can we go down a mountain to eat something?" You are asked with a smile. The Azure Supreme the Arch glanced at them and stretched out his hand to brush the three of them. The three of them felt a cool breeze blow past them. It was as if something had been taken away from their bodies, and they instantly felt refreshed. This wasn't the horsetail whisk technique. "Master, what is this technique?" You are curiously asked. This is similar to the horsetail whisk technique. The difference is that the horsetail whisk technique only removes the dust and dirt on your clothes, but the cleansing technique makes you feel as if you have just taken a bath and changed your clothes. It can save you the trouble of taking a bath and changing your clothes, Emperor Qing said unhurriedly. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.